Welcome to In Focus. We're issues that are shaping the world today. Tensions in the Middle East are heating up as Lebanon suffers a ferocity of Israel's aggression. Elsewhere, the United States election is gearing up as 35 days remain as the vice presidential nominees prepare for today's televised debate. And as the Russia-Ukraine war persists, we will be shedding light on the latest happenings there. Stay tuned. As hostilities spiral out of control in Lebanon, the region titters on the brink of a full-scale war. The international community is watching closely as diplomatic efforts struggle to contain the crisis. What has led to this escalation and has launched a limited ground operation into southern Lebanon, intensifying its offensive against Lebanon. This follows the assassination of Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah in a massive Israeli airstrike, further escalating tensions. With over 1,000 reported deaths and significant destruction across Lebanon, Hezbollah has vowed to resist Israeli aggression, while the international community scrambles to find the path to a ceasefire. Axios recently published an article drawing attention to concerns from US officials about Israel's history of invasions. While the Israeli military describes its current operation as limited, the reality is that such actions often spiral into far more destructive and prolonged conflicts, as seen in 1982 and 2006. Targeting Hezbollah has already resulted in devastating loss of life and widespread destruction. According to Axios, US officials have warned that even a so-called focused mission risks expanding into a larger conflict, possibly drawing in other regional actors. And now we are joined by Nourhan Sheikh, a political science professor, to explore the military and strategic dynamics on the ground. Welcome.
Hello.
It's a pleasure to have you with us. With the Israeli military now engaging in ground operations in southern Lebanon, do you think this marks a shift in their border military strategy? And what implications might this have for Hezbollah's long-term position in Lebanon?
Israel, unfortunately, is going to that ground operation in clear and very dangerous violation for Lebanese sovereignty and creating additional humanitarian disaster to what is still exists in Gaza. That situation serves only the interests of Netanyahu as a person and as a politician, but for all the region it is a disaster by all means, humanitarian means and political and strategic means. Unfortunately, the international community is up to the date is just watching.
Yes, Ms. Nourhan, where is the international community from all?
Still watching what is going on without any concrete steps to stop it. All countries asking Iran not to involve in the conflict, but no one is actually pressure seriously upon Israel to stop what is going on. And the most important thing that the United States itself declared its understanding to what is going on and the need for Israel and the priorities of Israel to...
But the United States always says but never acts.
Exactly, and this is the problem. because the Security Council of UN is now useless, almost useless. We couldn't do anything against what is going on because the veto of the United States. So I think this is a very dangerous situation, and it needs really for the international community to have an urgent session for Security Council, not just to discuss what is going on, or to complain or something like that, but to take a resolution and a decision under Chapter 7 to stop the war and to have a ceasefire immediately.
So you want a ceasefire as soon as possible, and you want a Security Council as soon as possible to be held to reach a solution and a ceasefire. Let's move on to the assassination of Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah, and most of the leadership has undoubtedly shaken the organization, of course, after his death. How do you see Hezbollah navigating its leadership vacuum, and could this moment of uncertainty shift the political landscape within Lebanon?
Of course, the assassination of Nasrallah was a very strong hit to Hezbollah. But Hezbollah is not a person. It is a huge organization.
Exactly.
So if Nasrallah disappear, it doesn't mean that Hezbollah also disappear. So I think.
So yes. So you're Nourhan, you're optimistic about Hezbollah, and they're gonna be picking up again as soon as possible.
Maybe it is not what some people expect to react from Hezbollah, because of
what's your vision at this point?
Because of course what happened eliminates its ability, its organization. Yes, it eliminates a little bit or so somehow, but it doesn't finish Hezbollah or end.
It will never end it, but the vacuum that's taking place at this point, which is very frightening.
There is the deputy of Hezbollah still exists. The one who should be nominated, Hashim Safiuddin, also one of the leaders. So there is no complete vacuum. Yes, Nasrallah was a very strong person and leading Hezbollah for 3 decades. So he has special capabilities in that. But if he disappeared, we still have many and we had plans already to how to react to Israel. So maybe it is not what people or some people expected, not very strong reaction, but it would have some steps against Israel that will complicate more and more the situation.
Okay, Lebanon is facing a humanitarian disaster at this point, with over 1 million people displaced and thousands of casualties. How are the Lebanese government and international aid organization responding to this crisis at this point? Are these efforts sufficient given the scale of this conflict?
You may know that Lebanon is not, up to the date, there is no president to Lebanon, and the government facing a huge challenges and difficulties, actually. So we cannot expect that much from the government, because there are also, still we had economic problems and other social problems in Lebanon without solving up to the date. And it is for years it is exist. So the humanitarian disaster.
But it's still worrying, Ms. Nourhan, that at this point Lebanon's economy is devastated as well. So it's very difficult for Lebanon to pick up at this point.
There is no any indication that Lebanon would be able to recover from such economic difficulties. Still, the problems is there and getting more and more complicated.
They're not problems; they're beyond problems. They're crises.
Yes, that's right, and also the government seemed that it hasn't any plans or any vision to deal either with economic difficulties or with the humanitarian disaster.
Why do you think the government hasn't a vision to deal with what's happening? Maybe because it happened suddenly and quickly, and it was really escalated at one point.
The problem is the capabilities. The capabilities of the government is not giving it that much space to maneuver or to be able to overcome all that difficulty. Lebanon is not that much rich country or having not that much capabilities. It depends mainly on tourism, and it is stopped for years. There is no any. That sector completely shut down for years. So it's really facing difficulty, and it really needs particularly European one, and especially France. France, it is mainly the one who you could consider as a partner for Lebanon.
Okay, let me ask you another question, Ms. Nourhan. Hezbollah has claimed that they are ready for a ground confrontation with Israeli forces. In your view, how prepared are they for such a sustained military engagement, especially in light of the recent losses, of course?
They are working as guerrilla wars. Guerrilla wars all over the history, having their own tools, their own techniques, and nobody can overcome totally them or completely destroy them all over the history, in any country, by the way, not Hezbollah. So the guerrilla, or what we call strategically as the underdog strategies, it's effective in many cases, worldwide, and I think they are following the same strategy of guerrilla or underdog strategies, which is very effective.
Thank you very much, Nourhan Sheikh, of course, political science. Thank you for your insightful, of course, analysis and military and strategic dimensions of this escalating conflict. And now let us move to the current developments in the U.S. election. Stay watching.
In this election, we each face the question.
It's the fourth quarter. So tonight, right here is up and through the roof. I know the president.
And even the bipartisan voice.
Add a little, this is not one. We're done. Please.
As the November 5th election draws near, 35 days are remaining, a fierce battle is unfolding between Republican Vice Presidential nominee J.D. Vance and Democratic Vice Presidential nominee Tim Walz. The Washington Post highlighted the long-awaited matchup, outlining what to expect from Tuesday's debate, along with the strengths and weaknesses of both candidates. To challenge Walz's moderate image by picking as his tenure as Minnesota's governor. Meanwhile, Walz is expected to focus less on personal attacks and more on articulating the democratic vision of America. Delving more into this, joins us now is from California, Dr. Ashraf Singer, world politics analyst for United News sector. Welcome, sir, on the show.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
Sir, how significant is this vice presidential debate in shaping public opinion ahead of Election Day, which, of course, remains 35 days?
Of course, for undecided voters, this is very crucial. Little bit. I'm not saying really important, like, you know.
Sir, could you elaborate more about undecided voters, or tell us more about undecided voters?
undecided voters, these guys are waiting, this kind of debate, either the presidential debate or vice presidential debate. They need to see what is really their positions, as a candidate. Is Kamala, Trump, Pence, Waltz? They need to see or listen to their position on different issues like abortion, border security, inflation, housing, medications, jobs. So all of these issues is really centered, the American mind. So these guys are not true believer for any party, either Democratic or Republican, but they are waiting to decide which is good for America, and it's good for America. So they need really to support the right party to win this election. So this is why this type of debate is very crucial for these guys, undecided voters. So they are not really aligned with specific party. They are waiting to listen to their arguments, and I think this vice presidential debate is really crucial for these guys. But um, as a true believer of Trump, or in terms of taking a position, they already took their position. You don't need additional argument. Even Trump, he lost, that kind of debate with Camilla. Lost debate. He won, the
Do
debate
you
was
think this
binding.
debate, sir, is crucial because of Trump was not on stable grounds when he was in the debate with Kamala Harris? So they're
This
doing
is
this
kind of a
debate now
challenge.
with the vice presidents.
This is a challenge for Vance. Vance needs to be really disciplined, defending Trump, and tackle all the issues that really had that debate in terms of
Okay, do
like
you read,
immigration.
sir, that the debate is in the favor of Donald Trump?
Which debate? The last one or
The
the new
debate
one?
that's taking the debate that's taking place now in a few hours today between
Oh,
Tim Walz.
yeah.
Do you
Uh,
think this debate is in favor of Donald Trump or the
it's gonna to
Republicans?
help. It's gonna to help Donald Trump little bit, not much. If and put many lines under if Vance really gonna to perform well, it is still new guys, like vice presidential candidate, either Walsh or Vance. They gonna to face each other today, and in terms of that kind of exchanging boxing, or exchanging, kind of words and arguments, we will decide which one is really doing better.
Sir,
But
what can we expect from Tim Walz in this debate today, especially given his relative inexperience on national stage?
yeah, I like this point. For Walt's strategy, first, he does need to promote Kamala Harris, from his heart, in terms of what? He need to show that the case of Kamala Harris as a potential U.S. president need to strengthen her position, try to convince undecided voters, and try to clarifying every issue that Kamala Harris exposed to. For example, Kamala was not really doing well in terms of issue of border or illegal immigrations, immigrant. I'm sorry. So he does need to emphasize that is he is doing well. Second, in terms of walls, one of the major issues how to convince people in Midwest. For the Midwest people, uh, they have like their own minds. So walls need to really approach to this Democratic Party is the right party, and Kamala Harris is the right candidate to lead the United States. So third one, and this is very crucial for Walls, by the way, his record, military record, in terms of the time that is he was really hiring people, to serve the military service or United States guards, national guards. But he didn't really travel, or he didn't go to Iraq where the conflict was there at that time. So at that time, uh, he does today. He really needs to explain exactly his position. But one of the good things, and it's really funny, and this is really challenge for both of these guys, for Waltz and Vance. First one, Waltz, claim or he said that is, Trump and Vance are weird. So word weird as a word, it's really big. So today he should be very careful, not really attacking too much
Okay, sir.
in terms of the
This
personal.
was very good, comprehensive, of course, input for, of course, when we came to discuss Waltz. Let's move on to J.D. Vance, which is known for his strong conservative views. How do you see him approaching this debate? Especially, of course, considering anti-abortion, less taxes, anti-migration. How do you read this, sir?
Yeah, I will start with the last one, the anti-immigration, So last debate with Trump, something is really went viral in the United States, eating the dogs, eating the cats, So this is Trump, claimed that, the Haiti immigrants were eating dogs and cats in Springfield, in Ohio.
Springfield, yeah.
So Vance gonna to face this kind of defending or try to clarifying that kind of claim wasn't really correct. So this is one of the challenges today on that debate, because that stuff it really went viral, and people got laughed, and actually didn't really help Trump, and in terms of his analyzing of this kind of statement to be anti-immigrants. And United States, the people, they don't like to hear this type of a statement about, any kind of ethnicity or races against, to be racist against any nationality. So this is one of the issues. The second issue, how really Vance can really give his point of view clearly about abortion. Of course, Vance and Trump anti-abortion, because both of them, they are conservative. And this is really the point that Kamala Harris is going to win in terms of, gathering, all the American youngs or American youth.
Okay, sir, let's move on to, of course, with Trump opting out of a second debate with Harris. How critical is this vice presidential debate in shaping the broader election narrative?
I'm not really optimistic about this kind of debate today.
Why, sir, aren't you optimistic about this debate?
No, I'm not. That debate not gonna to change, the foundation of every Americans. They already made their mind. So I'm not really optimistic. It's only about like 20% for all these guys, are waiting, that type of debate. But that debate is not really attracting, the core of the ideas. It's already they made their mind, in different states. I mean, even some states already started, to vote by mail. So it's important, but not really much. So I would say that kind of a statement. It's important, but not really crucial. It's not really important, that kind of debate. I was, waiting, or I wish, to see the second debate between Harris and Trump. This is gonna to be crucial because Trump didn't really perform well in the first one with Kamala. Of course, he did well with Biden, but he didn't really perform well with Kamala. So the second one, I'm sure it's gonna to be like a crucial and it's really important. But Trump,
sir, we cannot compare. We cannot compare the Trump and the Kamala debate to the vice presidents or the expected vice presidents of the United States debate. We cannot compare them to each other, definitely. We look forward, sir, of course, to watching this debate. We're all excited too. I don't think it's going to be grabbing the attention of the entire world, unlike the Trump and Kamala, of course, debate. That was Dr. Ashraf Singer, world politics analyst for our United News sector. Thank you, sir, for joining us and sharing, of course, your insights and input and informative knowledge. You're watching Q News, and as we can see, we bring you live, of course, coverage of what's happening. The Iranian now are striking Israel. These are strikes on Israel by Iran. Of course, this is happening due to the escalation by Israel, due to, of course, the death of of course, Ismail Haniyeh to start with, and Fuad Shukr, and of course, pagers and walkie-talkies. Most important, Hezbollah leader who has been leading Hezbollah for the past 30 years, Hassan Nasrallah, which Israel killed a few days ago. And of course, Israel also has been witnessing and has been giving incursions in Lebanon overnight, with giving orders to the Lebanese citizens not to move in their vehicles. Of course, humanitarian aid has become a problem, and of course, Lebanon is suffering, of course, from the ferocity of Israel's aggression, and we're watching what's going on, and Iran apparently has started to interrupt and to intervene and to oversee what's taking place, and this is furthermore escalation in the region which is taking place. And for further analysis on the escalating tensions in Lebanon, we're now joined by Mr. John El-Faghli, the researcher at Mashriq Center. Welcome, sir, and it's a pleasure to have you with us on the show, as of course you can watch and see everything that's escalating. Iran now hitting Israel. Sir, after the Israeli targeting of the Ain al-Hilwa camp in Lebanon, will Israel shift to targeting Palestine?
First of all, thank you for having me. I believe for now, Israel and with the talks of a land invasion to Lebanon, I believe that Israel will target anyone and anything that Israel perceives as a threat to its national security. I believe they will go on with their set plans. Unfortunately, I believe that their talks of a land invasion are not just a threat. I believe they could or they will for sure. The horizon, there is a redrawing on the maps, a redrawing of the maps. There is a shift in the regional dynamics, power play that is occurring. So the trigger for all of this would significantly be the land invasion of Lebanon by Israel. So.
Sir, you can see the escalation that took place now, and Iran is now striking Israel.
Of course, there is still some conflicts going on. Israel is not like stopping its invasion of the Gaza Strip, but we believe it's reaching a certain end, and they will focus now on more on Lebanon, especially with the talks of a land invasion. So I believe that's where the focus will shift in the future.
Okay, sir, will the resolution of the current crisis in the Middle East be postponed until after the election of a new United States president?
Surely, I believe so. I believe that the U.S. is setting its priority right now on electing a new president. But I believe that both, and that's what we have seen, both presidents have statements that Israel's national interest
okay,
and security is above all else. So.
Okay, sir, I want to refer again to what's happening on air now and what we are witnessing live, and which is taking place after the White House, of course, announced less than an hour that Iran is going to be, of course, launching, of course, missiles on the Israeli side, and there will be an incursion from Iran. Iran took place and actually hit and actually did start striking Israel. How do you read and assess the situation at this point, sir, and what's going on exactly from your own perspective?
Well, I believe that before the airstrikes, as we have witnessed, Iran was stating that they are ready to negotiate with the U.S., and I don't think that they are.
At this point?
They're sending a message to maybe rush in the negotiation process, especially since I believe that if Iran could have actually hit or struck sooner. Now we believe that the damage is done, especially in Lebanon, especially with this killing of Hezbollah members in Lebanon.
Exactly, sir. The narratives about Iran recently was that all these leaders were assassinated, of course, and Iran was one of them, Ismail Haniyeh, was in Iran when he was assassinated, which was a big alarm at that point.
Exactly, and still no further escalation was done from Iran's part, and even when this past week tensions have been escalating in Lebanon, there weren't no further escalations from the Iranian camp. This is why I believe that these strikes will not escalate in the future. We hope they won't, but
okay,
now,
sir, let's assess Iran's incursion now and what's taking place. Do you think it's constructive at this point and it is necessary to stop Israel from the actions that they're taking place in the Middle East and in Lebanon, especially now after what happened and what took place in Gaza? And it's been so quick and it's really getting out of proportion.
Of course, we urge the international community to step up and to help Lebanon maintain the peace and to stop the war. We urge Israel to cease from striking Lebanon. That's of course obvious, and we hope that we can come to a peaceful resolution and hopefully a new social contract for Lebanon.
Okay, sir, how do you read everything that's taking place at this point?
For me, I believe that the region is being under a transformative period.
It's in a crisis. Okay, sir, do you see that the assassination of Hezbollah's leader Hassan Nasrallah and most of the leadership has undoubtedly shaken the organization? How do you see Hezbollah navigating its leadership a vacuum, and could this moment of uncertainty shift the political landscape within Lebanon at this point?
Of course, it will have a huge impact. It already has. This is similar to if we have this huge company and we took out the CEO, if you will, if we were to compare it to that. I believe that for now the foundation has been shaken, especially since the assassination has been so swift and so quick and so sudden. Not even to Hezbollah members, even to the masses, to the Lebanese population. The way things have escalated really did catch most of even experts by surprise. So I believe they will take a decent amount of time to regroup, to see where they would go, where they should go, whether they will escalate more their attacks. If they
Yes,
can
sir.
escalate
It's
more their
worth to
attacks.
mention that Hezbollah has a history of using asymmetrical warfare tactic. Given the current military situation, do you foresee any changes in Hezbollah's strategy in the coming weeks, especially in how they might adapt to Israel's ground operation that's taking place at the moment?
I believe that a change of strategy will come not by choice, actually,
Not by
especially with
not by what, sir? I beg your pardon. I'm sorry.
not by choice. I said not by choice. I say that I believe that they will
Not
be
by
forced
choice.
or
Not by choice.
pressure.
Sorry, I didn't
hmm
listen.
They will be pressured or they will be forced, for lack of a better term, to change their strategy, especially since most of their key leaders have been assassinated by Israel. So until a new leadership is elected, we won't be able to see which orientation the party will take. So.
Okay, sir. Countries like France, honestly, are actively trying to mediate the conflict. How effective have international diplomatic efforts been in curbing violence, and what more can be done to bring about a ceasefire if you see a ceasefire is imminent?
For now, I don't think international initiatives have done
I said
anything
France,
to
sir.
prevent.
I did not say international.
Yes, France, including the international France, as well as the international community, as well as other countries. This has been evident ever since the start of the war in Gaza and leading up to the current situation. Uh, the many like the the Speaker of Parliament, Nabih Berri, have urged the French and the Prime Minister Najib Mikati have urged the French and the international community to step in and to impose a ceasefire or to try and get Israel to go into a ceasefire. But these efforts have led to nowhere, unfortunately. I don't think that for now uh, France is able to do anything for now. I think that more pressure needs to be put from France and other countries onto Israel, possibly to implement the United Nations Special Council resolutions for Lebanon, the 1559, 1680, and especially 1701, under Chapter 7, of course. Uh, Only then we can actively start talking about the ceasefire.
في كم واحد
Hello?
Okay, sir, I would like to ask you a question because we're running out of time. Lebanon is facing a humanitarian disaster with over 1 million people displaced and thousands of casualties. How are the Lebanese government and international aid organizations responding to the crisis? And are these efforts sufficient given the scale of this conflict?
The government and international organizations such as the Red Cross have been working towards finding many homes for the displaced and many logistics, including food, shelter, clothing, etc. Of course, this is accompanied by personal initiatives and personal efforts. Even religious figures like the patriarch have urged his Maronite Christian community to welcome people into their homes, to give people displaced people safe havens, safe refugees. People have been staying in churches and monasteries and public and private schools. So apart from the government initiatives and the international organization initiatives, what completes them is this personal initiatives and this solidarity amongst the Lebanese people, amongst the 18 different sects and religions and cultures. So.
Thank you very much for your input and informative knowledge, sir. And Mr. John, the researcher at Al Mashriq Center, thank you very much, sir, for joining us. And we still will watch what's going on and what's taking place, and we'll be with you minute by minute coverage and bringing you the latest. We are informed that 8 are dead from the Israeli side. Started, of course, the incursion on Israel, and we are still, dear viewers, watching what's taking place and bringing you all the information. And for further analysis on the escalating tensions in Lebanon, we are now joined by Dr. Mohammed Othman, the international relations expert on the latest escalation in Lebanon. Welcome, Dr. Othman.
Thank you for having me, Rana.
Sir, it's our utmost pleasure to have you with us on the show. What are the primary motivations behind the recent rocket fire from Lebanon and Iran towards Israel? And how do you fit, or do they fit, in
Well, in actuality, it's surprising, at the same time not that surprising, because everyone was expecting an Iranian retaliation since the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh. So now with the huge escalation in Lebanon and the invasion that started yesterday, or the incursion into southern Lebanon, as well as the decimation of the entire leadership structure of Hezbollah, it was rather expected that Iran would stage some sort of retaliation. However, what we can tell so far from what we have seen, the number of projectiles that have been shot and the number of projectiles that have been intercepted so far, it seems to be a limited strike. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps expressed definitively that they will respond to any Israeli retaliation, meaning that their attack is over, or so we can understand. However, whether Israel will show any...
But at the end of the day, Dr. Osman, sorry to interrupt you, 8 Israeli were killed in Yafa, which I think is... what do you think?
The attack in Tel Aviv and the fatalities in it is not only linked to the rocket attack. There was a shooting inside Tel Aviv and people died in the Jaffa area of Tel Aviv. So it's not clear whether these fatalities are directly linked to the missile attacks. However, what I was saying, regardless of whether there are casualties or not, I think we can expect an Israeli response of some sort, because Israel has shown self-restraint. The previous time, Iran launched missiles against Israel and drones in April, over 100 or 200 projectiles. It was even a larger attack, as far as we know, than this one. However, this time, the situation is different. This time, Israel is in a direct war with Hezbollah, and Lebanon is Iran's primary proxy force in the region. As well, we expect that the Iranians can even escalate further if the Israelis manage to retaliate. And let's not forget that the assassination of Hassan Nasrallah and the attack on Beirut also left a senior general in the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, the Al-Quds brigade of the or division of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. He died in the assassination of Hassan Nasrallah in the southern suburbs of Beirut. So we can expect further escalation. To be honest, the Iranian attack came as a partial surprise of some sort. And analysts and experts thought, including myself, that Iran is bent on diffusing the tension, but Iran was not willing to play along with Israel in the escalation game. However, now Iran has escalated. Iran has launched a full-scale attack on Israel. Whether the impact of this attack is major or not, it will provoke an Israeli response of some sort.
Sir, do you read this attack as positive?
Of course not. No act of war is positive. This does not serve stability in the region or peace in the region. The entire world, including many regional powers, are struggling to reach a settlement and a ceasefire. So any further attacks or any further escalation by any of the parties does not serve these efforts. However, on the other hand, let's not forget that Israel is the aggressor. So the chain of escalation, the main responsibility lies within Israel. It lies on Israel, this escalation. What Iran has done as a response is a participation in this escalation, but the primary responsibility should be laid on Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu's government.
Sir, how does the Israeli defense system respond to these threats, and what measures are in place to protect civilians in affected areas?
The Israelis have one of the most sophisticated missile defense systems in the world. One of them, for example, is the Iron Dome. The other one is the Arrow system. And these ones have proven surprisingly over the past year to be successful, at least in containing the missile attacks, whether from Hamas or from Hezbollah. We have not seen any wave of attacks that have left any substantial damage or destruction in Israel in comparison, for example, or vis-a-vis the range of outright and massive destruction that Israeli strikes lead on Gaza or on Lebanon. So we can say that these are the systems they have in place. In addition, of course, to the thousands of shelters all over the country where people can run to these shelters in order to take shelter from the missile fire in case any missile lands. And actually how these missile systems work, the missile defense systems work, is that they intercept the missiles that are targeting high-value targets or civilian areas. If the missile is going to land, for example, in a barren area or an empty land or outside the city, they actually let it land in order to save costs and save more missile defense system missiles, because these systems actually, and the munitions of these systems are very, very expensive. So, but the Israelis are not willing to spare any expenses in their own defense, and this is something that we have known about Israel since its inception as a country in the Middle East. So that's what the Israelis have in place, or that's what they think. But of course, these missile systems or these missile defense systems, they are not impregnable. They can be penetrated. And for example, the attack in Najd Shams in the Golan Heights was a primary example of that one. A missile landed that was launched allegedly from Lebanon and killed over 12 people in late July. And it actually led to the chain of escalation that led to the war in Lebanon, starting with the assassination of Fuad Shukr, and then the pager attacks, and then the assassination of Ibrahim Aqil, and then the all-out war in Lebanon and the assassination of Hassan Nasrallah and most of the leadership of Hezbollah. Hello?
Yes, Dr. Mohammed Osman. Dr. Mohammed, what impact do these military actions have on the stability of the region, especially in terms of potential escalation and international response? And you have 30 seconds to answer this question. Sir, sorry.
In less than 30 seconds, it's very detrimental for the stability of the region. We are on the precipice of a potential regional war, and we are in great danger. And I think cooler heads have to prevail, and peace has to prevail. If the chain of escalation persists, we will go into a regional war.
Sir, how do the current tensions and hostilities affect the everyday lives of civilians in both Israel and neighboring countries involved?
Of course, it will disrupt everyday life. If this exchange between Iran and Israel turns into a full-out war, life will be over in Israel, because Iran has an arsenal of thousands and thousands of missiles. But it will not. But it will be hell for the Iranians as well, because if the Israelis decide to retaliate and bomb Iran, it will not only be Israel on its own. The United States will intervene definitely if they feel that Israel is in any great existential danger.
Dr. Mohammed Osman, of course, I really appreciate your input, your informative knowledge, and adding to our program, of course, value. Thank you very much for being with us today. And of course, dear viewers, it's worth to mention that the coverage will continue, and we are watching Q News.
Ladies and gentlemen, we continue our live coverage of the missile launch that is targeting Tel Aviv that took place moments ago. And the Iranian Revolutionary Guard has claimed the responsibility and stated that these missiles and this attack is a response to the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh, Hamas leader. This comes on the tails of an earlier ground incursion into southern Lebanon by the Israeli forces earlier in the day. We've seen the dark skies intercepted by lightning missiles hitting different areas. Seemed that they hit barren spaces, but this is not yet confirmed. The Israeli occupation army has just announced the evacuation of all Israelis to shelters coinciding with the start of the Iranian attack, according to Israeli media reports. They also announced a second round of Iranian missiles aimed at Tel Aviv. The Iranian television announced that targets inside Israel were hit by missiles launched from within the Iranian territory. The Israeli media stated that the two rounds witnessed the launch of over 400 rockets from Iran towards Israel. Media reports indicated that a building in northern Tel Aviv was hit, with news of severe injuries, and there were also reports of an Iranian missile landing directly in Tel Aviv. The Cairo News channel, citing Israeli media, reported that there were reports of damage to an Israeli gas platform in the Mediterranean Sea. The Israeli army radio warned Iran, stating that it had made a life-threatening mistake. On the other hand, US President Joe Biden commented on the Iranian attack against Israel, saying, "We are prepared to help Israel attack Iran." He also added that the United States is ready to assist Israel in defending itself against attacks and to protect its forces in the region, according to Reuters. The Iranian television announced targeting sites inside Israel with missiles from within the Iranian territory. The Israeli army warned that the Iranian missile attacks could be widespread. And for further analysis on the escalating tensions in Lebanon and what we're witnessing now, we're joined by Dr. Osama Raslan, the legal linguist and political commentator, to discuss the recent escalations. Welcome, Dr. Osama. Now, sir, what do you see as the primary drivers behind the recent escalation in Lebanon, and how do they relate to the broader regional context and what we are witnessing right now?
Well, thank you for having me. Actually, it can be seen through that length of response, action, and reaction. It's a vicious cycle. It's grown into a vicious cycle of violence and counter-violence, and fortunately, this is very harmful, of course, to the whole region, because by the hour, chances are increasing that things are getting out of hand, getting out of control into an all-out war, which would be highly costly. It would cause damage like never known before to the region. I believe not only the parties within the region will be involved, because if the pieces of news so far aired are verified in terms of hitting targets in Tel Aviv, hitting targets of natural gas platforms on the Mediterranean Sea, I believe this will cause other international players to be involved very soon.
Dr. Aslan, now, how do the internal political factions in Lebanon influence the country's response to external threats, such as the Iranian missile attacks that we just witnessed?
Well, actually, unfortunately, Lebanon, I would say it is the epitome of political inaction, political stagnation, considering what has been evolving in that country for decades now. It is sometimes when you have non-state actors maybe serving the interests of other parties, non-national parties, that brings about the situation we're witnessing now in Lebanon. And let's not forget about the fact that Iranian wave of missiles and other projectiles that have been launched on the minutes ago. It was, I believe, it received some support, some military support by Hezbollah operatives on the ground, because they also launched a coinciding wave of rockets and other projectiles from the south of Lebanon.
Sir, now you've mentioned that an international community response could be imminent. Now, in what ways do you think the international community, particularly the US and European nations, should respond to the current situation in Lebanon and its implications for regional stability, keeping in mind the comments and statements that were just made by the US President Joe Biden?
Well, actually, let me take the last part of the question first. U.S. support to Israel is unlimited and unconditional. What I mean by a larger amount of or a higher level of involvement by the international community, well, what I expect to see within the following hours, if this turns out into direct targeting by the two countries of each other, I mean Iran and Israel, I believe if there are any sanctions left when it comes to exporting military equipment to Israel by any European country, these will be lifted. The United States is it is already in the process of increasing its military presence and fortifying its presence across the Middle East, and particularly in Israel. Equipment and other military shipments by air and by sea from the United States to Israel never stopped over the last year. Actually, the United States is so keen on replenishing the warehouses of ammunition and you name it, of military equipment in Israel, in order for Israel to be able to cope up with those challenges that are increasing by the hour.
Dr. Aslan, now, you spoke of the role of the Lebanese factions in the current escalation. Now, do you think Hezbollah plays a role in the current escalation? And if so, how big of a role is it? And how might this current situation and these actions impact Lebanon's political landscape?
Well, it will have a very much lasting impact on the political landscape in Lebanon. Well, what I see is that Israel has been trying till a few hours ago to turn the Lebanese against each other, because certain Lebanese sects or parts of other Lebanese communities that are not necessarily in agreement with Hezbollah and its agenda in the region, they have been but again, the ramifications of the whole situation into a regional all-out war will be very harmful and damage-causing to the whole region and also to international players.
So now,
by targeting other countries within the region that are not necessarily direct parties to the current due to the current action and reaction on the military level between Israel and Iran.
Well, Dr. Aslan, now on the immediate term, rather, now what sort of potential scenarios do you foresee in the near future? How might these scenarios shape Lebanon's political and social landscapes?
Well, in Lebanon, you can imagine how harmful the whole situation to the whole country. Lebanon is a country on the brink of a food insecurity crisis. It is already suffering from a huge influx of domestic displacement. So many things and developments are taking place in Lebanon. But again, the sum of all fears would be other parties involved in the region. For example, if you have Iran-backed movements within Iraq taking the initiative to target Israel or to target any other American presence, military presence in the region. The same applies, of course, to the Houthis in Yemen. We have been seeing what's going on to the south of the Red Sea at the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. The whole region is boiling. Hopefully, it will not reach the level of boiling over into an all-out war.
Mm-hmm. So now, speaking of boiling into an all-out war, now the U.S. have made it clear that it would support and defend and help Israel defend itself. Now, do you see other regions, other places within the region taking center stage as the battlegrounds of this sort of quote-unquote defense of Israel and its citizens?
Yes, this is what I've been trying to highlight in my earlier words. Other regional players, I mean, especially non-state actors, would be more involved. I believe Iran would use whatever it can if the situation turns into an all-out war. And again, buffer states as Iraq and Jordan, and maybe other states within the region with a military American presence might be targets for certain strikes if the situation escalates.
Dr. Osama Raslan, the linguistic expert and political commentator, thank you very much, sir, for joining us and for your input. Furthermore, we move to Mr. Marco Mossad, the research fellow at the Middle East Policy Center. Mr. Mossad, thank you for joining us. Now, what impact do you think the recent Iranian missile strikes will have on Israel's military strategy in light of its continued aggression in the region?
First of all, thank you for having me and congratulations on launching for amazing channel. And I think that this escalation from Iran, I think we have been expecting this like for almost 2 or 3 months after the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh in the heart of Tehran and all of these assassinations in the southern suburb of Beirut. So I think Iran right now wants to deliver a message that it's already an effective state in the Middle East region. And I think also the Iran shared intelligence information with the US, and of course, in return, the US shared this intelligence information with Israel to tell them how many or the effectiveness or the size of this attacks. And if you are talking about attacks, if you are talking about 200 missiles or drones or anything like that, I think it's similar to the same size and the same effect of the Iranian attacks that we have seen in April. But in April and in this attack, I think we haven't seen yet this huge impact on Israelis' infrastructure or on Israelis' casualties. So here's the question here. Of course, it's a matter of like the effectiveness, or it's a matter of the size of this attack. But what comes next? And also, if Iran has succeeded in achieving the like mass destruction in Israel, or like this attack caused many casualties. And I think if this attack caused many casualties, and also if it caused like mass destruction in Israel, here's the thing. Here's the question that we will go to a wider war or the direct war with Iran, and of course that would be like Iran and versus Israel and the United States of America. So I think we have to wait a little bit to assess the situation right now. If this sorry, and if this attack like caused like a huge destruction or like many number of casualties, and I think this is the red line of Israel, because Israel, of course, will not need any casualties that caused by the Iranian missiles that would diminishes the idea of Israel like protecting its national security and protecting its region. However, Israel on the other side, and the United States, of course, have tested Iran multiple times for the last 3 or 4 months. And like we're talking about, like starting from the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh, assassination of all of these leaders of Hezbollah in the heart of Beirut, and also the hacking of Beja's devices and all of these devices in the secret communication of Hezbollah. So they have tested Iran, and Iran has not responded yet. And now Iran is about to respond about like the killing, of the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh. So I think Israel has like also received positive messages from Iran through the United States or through the West that Iran is not serious to have this broadened war or to have like a direct confrontation with Israel. That's why we're seeing Israel is like escalating, and they're doing what they need to do just protect their territory. And of course, it's against like international law, it's against like the international establishment. And this is what we've been seeing from the Israel since October 7th last year. However, right now, the United States is like trying to send two contradicting messages. The first one, they are trying to hold on the diplomatic solution to just solve or de-escalate the situation in the Middle East. And the second one is like, again is the first message is like, try to support Israel with their military action. And they're saying that Israel wants to defend itself and want to defend its citizens. So I think the United States is not, it's like Benjamin Netanyahu is like using the weakness of the Biden administration. He knows that Biden administration is not about to send like or to impose sanctions on Israel or to try to limit Israel's actions again right now in the Middle East. Why? Because we are about like to see the U.S. election, and the U.S. election is like very tight race between the Vice President Kamala Harris and also former President Donald Trump. And I think Iran does not want to impress Israel. Sorry, Iran does not want to put Kamala Harris or the Biden administration in a very weird situation. That's why we have seen that Iran didn't want to open open fire or open a direct confrontation with Israel. But right now, they are in the place that they need to defend themselves, defend their reputation in the Middle East, and also defend their reputation in their proxies. Right now, Iran wants to send this message, and I think what Iran did today, like a few minutes ago, it's not a serious damage. It will not cause a serious damage, but just like a emotional retaliation against all of this assassination. And I think this is like very tight calculated, because Iran does not want to have this confrontation with Israel right now. That's why I'm telling you, we have to wait a little bit just to assess the situation. And if it's really very bad or effective attacks against Israel, then it will have we will have another scenario. We will be talking about wider war between Israel and Iran. But if it's only a retaliation or just a message from Iran, then I don't think will cause any escalation from now on until November 5th, until we see the U.S. election.
Mm-hmm. Well, one country that is already very much in the line of fire is Lebanon now. How might the ongoing crisis in Lebanon influence the government's ability to manage or respond to these escalating tensions?
Lebanon is a very good country, but its geographic location. It's very bad for its because it's like in the between the influence of Iran and Israel. Now, right now, we are talking about Iranian influence in Lebanon, and also we are talking that the government is very weak and the army cannot defend the country right now. So I feel like this is so huge Iranian influence in Lebanon, and the government cannot contain this influence from Iran yet. But I think if we are seeing this escalation against Hezbollah, and I think if we are seeing Israel is like very serious in diminishing Hezbollah's capabilities or diminishing Hezbollah's leaders or command of a chain, then I think we will be talking in the near future that Lebanon will be like a very stable state, but it will take time because right now we are seeing like between quote like this is like fragile state because right now we don't see any strong military, we don't see any strong government, and I think we have seen also 1 million people are were displaced from the southern Lebanon now into many different spots in Lebanon and in Syria. So I think right now Lebanon is in a very bad situation, and I hope that will not involve the country into like a mass war that we have seen in 2006, because if we see that, then I expect that many casualties in this war.
Mm-hmm. Now, Mr. Mossad, you've mentioned and other observers have mentioned that it is very likely that a broader or regional conflict could be taking place. It's on the cards, but it's on the table rather now. Is there any room for diplomatic measures, any diplomatic efforts that could be taken to de-escalate the situation? What role could the international organizations play in this process swiftly?
Yeah, if we're talking about the diplomatic solution, I think we are talking about the French and the American proposal that seek the ceasefire, and I think that was proposed to the Israeli government in front of the United Nations General Assembly on Wednesday, and there were messages from the Israeli Prime Minister office that they were leaning towards it, and they want to have this or to achieve this ceasefire through this American and French proposal. And after 2 days, we were seeing that the Israeli government or the Israeli Prime Minister sent different messages that he doesn't want to have a ceasefire in Lebanon, and he needs to achieve all of the military gains that he wants to see on the ground. So I think that the whole international system right now, or we are talking about the US and the French government, they are working tirelessly just to achieve this ceasefire. But I don't think there is a very good amount of political willingness, if we are allowed to say that, because the U.S. administration now we are about 40 days ahead of the U.S. election, and I don't think the Biden administration / Kamala Harris administration are willing to lose the support that they are receiving from the Jewish coalition here in the United States. So I don't think the Biden administration / Kamala Harris are serious to impose sanctions or to put real pressure on the Netanyahu government to just achieve ceasefire. That's why I'm saying that between now until November 5th or until the new administration is elected, I think we will see all of these Israelis escalation towards Lebanon. They want to achieve or to weaken the Hezbollah's capabilities, and of course, at the same time, weakening Hezbollah's capabilities is also a strategic win to the United States. If we are saying, let's say that many leaders of the Hezbollah's military command of chief, I think they are in the list of the U.S. terrorist list. So I think this is also another strategic win to the United States of America. So between now until November 5th, until the new administration is elected, we will see these escalations, these attacks here and there from Israel, either in Lebanon, in Gaza, in West Bank, and also in Yemen, as we have seen in the last 2 days, until we have a new administration is elected. And until then, I think from now on until then, Benjamin Netanyahu wants to achieve military gains till the administration is elected, and then he will start really the ceasefire negotiation or the deal. But he wants to achieve or secure this military gains first, and then to improve his steps or his location when it comes to the negotiation. And he wants also to put as much pressure as he can on Hezbollah to also to listen to or to put pressure to listen to the Israelis' willingness or to put their terms on Hezbollah's. I think this is like this is what's going on right now. But of course, the situation will change if the Iranian attack or if the Iranian retaliation caused like huge damage or caused any like a huge number of casualties. Then the Israeli government or the Benjamin Netanyahu will also retaliate back very hard. Then we will see like back and forth retaliations between Israel and Iran, and of course the United States will be more involved. And as we have seen, that the Biden administration has also in the Middle East, and we have seen this all of this like since in the last 2-3 months. But I think the United States is ready, and I think the United States also is sharing intelligence information with the Israeli counterparts. But I don't think we will have any huge escalation if this Iranian attack it was just a message. It was just only a retaliation, like just to prove that they are there and they are effective state in the Middle East region.
What about the people on the streets? Now, how might the ongoing conflict affect the humanitarian situation in Lebanon and the surrounding areas, particularly for civilians caught in the crossfire? About 1 million displaced Lebanese over the past few days alone.
The humanitarian situation is very bad right now because we're not talking about only the humanitarian situation in Lebanon. We are talking about the humanitarian situation in Gaza. Since like almost a week or 10 days, we have not mentioned Gaza in the media. And I think this is like a strategic win for the Benjamin Netanyahu. He switched all attention and all of the coverage from Gaza now to Lebanon. I think right now in Lebanon, like we are talking about more than 1 million displaced people from the southern part of Lebanon into like Syria or into different part of Lebanon, and I don't think Hezbollah was able to secure their food, they secured their water, they secured their medicine, they secured their shelters. I think they are out of nowhere. Then they don't have any support from the government because the government is trying to figure out the way how they contain the situation right now, but without having the resources. And also, as we have seen yesterday or before yesterday, when the French foreign minister, he came and with like 50 tons of like medical supplies. I think Lebanon needs more than that, but I think the humanitarian situation will be worse than that. And if we continue to see this escalation, and of course if we see this direct confrontation between Hezbollah and the military or the Israeli military that is already there in the southern border of Lebanon.
Mr. Marco Mossad, the political commentator, thank you very much for joining us. The Israeli Occupation Army has announced the evacuation of all Israelis to shelters coinciding with the start of the Iranian attack, according to the Israeli media reports. They also announced a second round of Iranian missiles aimed at Tel Aviv. This comes after a senior U.S. official revealed today that the United States has indications that Iran is preparing to launch a ballistic missile attack on Israel soon. The official added that the U.S. is actively supporting preparations to defend Israel against this attack. He emphasized that any direct military attack on Israel by Iran would have severe consequences for Tehran. The Iranian attack comes in response to the assassination of Hezbollah's Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah last Friday, where Iran vowed to take revenge. Over the past 2 weeks, intense Israeli airstrikes targeted several leaders of Hezbollah and the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, resulting in the deaths of approximately 1,000 civilians. Additionally, these strikes forced 1 million people to flee their homes, according to the Lebanese government. The Lebanese Ministry of Health reported that at least 95 people were killed and 172 injured in Israeli strikes on southern Lebanon, the Bekaa Valley, and Beirut in the past 24 hours. These warnings from Austin came after the Iranian Foreign Ministry confirmed yesterday that it would not send Iranian forces to Lebanon to support Hezbollah. The Iranian television announced that targets inside Israel were hit by missiles launched from within the Iranian territory. Ladies and gentlemen, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard announced moments ago that Israel will be targeted again if it responds to any attack. On the other hand, the Israeli media reported that Israeli defenses are intercepting Iranian drones and missiles in the skies over Tel Aviv. Meanwhile, the US Embassy in Israel issued a high-level alert to its employees, ordering them to return to their homes and prepare to enter shelters, according to the Israeli media. With us now is the former Lebanese Minister of Foreign Affairs, Faris Bouaziz, to emphasize further on the current situation and the escalation in the region. Mr. Faris, thank you very much for joining us. Now, first, I'd like to ask you, how do you interpret Iran's missile attacks as a reaction to Israeli airstrikes and the assassination of Hassan Nasrallah?
First of all, we have to look at what is happening in Muscat, Oman, to understand what is really happening out of there. I think that in Iran, in Oman, you have talks between Americans and Iranians. The Iranians are trying to break all the sanctions against them, the economic sanctions, to recuperate billions of dollars. And the Americans are trying to, first of all, to postpone or to stop the nuclear Iranian program and to stop the assistance of Iran or the help of Iran to her allies in the confrontation league. So, till now, the Iranians were very patient and wanted to save these talks. But I think that Netanyahu, who is the only one who doesn't want these talks, American and Iranian want these talks to succeed. But Netanyahu doesn't want these talks, thinking that these talks are partial solutions. When he wants direct confrontation between the United States and Iran. And he thinks that this confrontation will destroy definitely the Iranian nuclear program and the Iranian system to the confrontation front. So I think that till now, the provocation of Netanyahu went too far. I think that the Iranians restrained themselves during the last week, even after the attack against the Palestinian leader in Tehran, or many other attacks against Guardian Revolution in Damascus or in Lebanon. And even after the attack against Hassan Nasrallah, the Secretary General of Hezbollah. But I think that the patience of Iran is going to an end. I think that Israel crossed, first of all, the rules of the confrontation since many weeks already, and broke also what it was called the red line. And now Iran is in a position where it is losing his credit or his confidence in front of her allies, thinking that these allies are really thinking that Iran sold them, that Iran let them alone in this battle. And then I think that what's happening actually is that we are reaching the last point before a direct confrontation, before a general confrontation, which Menachem Begin worked so much for. I think that we are in the last step for that. Why? Because I think that the Iranians are now sending rockets to Israel. If the United States are going to defend Israel or to intervene in this conflict, I think that the Iranians are going also to send their rockets in the Gulf against the American bases or against the American fleet. And I think that we will reach a general confrontation and the direct confrontation between USA and Iran. And so what's happening now is that Iran lost her patience and reacted to dozens of strikes against her high-level officers in Syria and in Lebanon, and reacted to the assassination of the Palestinian leader in Tehran and to the strike against Hassan Nasrallah in Beirut. I think that we are in a very critical situation. All the entire area, the entire region is in a very critical situation where we are reaching the last level before a general confrontation.
Your Excellency, now the implications that these escalating military exchanges have, what are they going to do for Lebanon, for the regional stability and the potential for a broader conflict, as you've mentioned?
The Israeli incursion in South Lebanon, which started yesterday, even if they are in a small size now, till now, but are very dangerous. Even if the Israelis are saying that it will be a very small invasion and a very quick one, etc. Everybody in Lebanon is remembering in 1982 when Israel started what they called at this time a small invasion till the Litani River, and after that reached Beirut and invaded Beirut. And I think that nobody is buying the story that it will be only a very small incursion. I think that this is going to lighten a real general war in the whole area. And I don't think that it will be an easy story for Israel, because even if Israel has supremacy in the technology, in the aerial forces, in the intelligence services, but this is a land war. This is a ground war. This is a war where humans are confronting with each with us. And I think that here this confrontation will not be so easy for it.
Mr. Boyes, now we've been witnessing a lot of criticism inside Israel regarding the handling of the governments, of the political, economic and military actions. Now, how might Israel's defensive measures, such as the evacuations of citizens to shelters, affect the public sentiment and support for the government policies?
I think that the Israeli government is actually in a very difficult situation. I think that after or through the war in Gaza, first of all, the economy of Israel received a very hard, let's say, strike, or very hard strike here. Jews can stay in Israel in a total confidence, etc., is no more valid. I think that after all these rockets, which are reaching Jaffa or Tel Aviv or Haifa or center of Israel, it is destroying the moral of the population. Three, sure, most of their time they are in shelters. And I think that this has a great influence on their moral. It is why I think, and fourth, the most important, any solution for the hostages which are retained in Gaza is not very close to reach. So, and they have the feeling that the government is doing nothing to that. This is what is changing the situation in a certain way, and this is what comfortable situation. Now, Israel is condemned, or to go quickly to a solution for the Palestinian problem and for the Lebanese problem, or is condemned to go to a kind of suicidary situation, to go in what they call in French fuite en avant, means running and searching a victor, to let the people stay quiet and to let the people think that they are really victorious. I think that it's not easy, and I think that the situation of the Israeli government is not very comfortable, and maybe this is what is pushing Netanyahu to go more and more to adventure.
Your Excellency, now as a reaction for the recent Iranian missile attack, now statements came out from the Biden administration. Now, in light of the U.S. support for Israel, how do you see the role of the United States influencing the dynamics of this conflict, influencing all parties involved? Will it change the calculations of all those involved and concerned?
Till this moment, the position of the United States is a very confused one. From one side, from one hand, the United States are asking all parties not to go to a general confrontation. And from another side, the United States are repeating every day that they are supporting Israel in any case, that they will support the security of Israel, that they will do everything to help Israel, etc. I think that it's contradictory. They are negotiating with Iranians, and they know that Netanyahu is destroying these talks, and at the same time, they are saying that we are engaged with Israel. Second of all, the Americans are continuing to give Israel a lot of the most sophisticated weapons the world have ever seen. especially rockets with 2 tons of explosives, 2 tons of explosives, which they strike against Hassan Nasrallah. And so this is also contradictory in their position. They are not making any restriction on sending weapons. And at the end, they are also pushing more in with their fleet in the Gulf, in the Arab Gulf, or the Mediterranean, where they added the air carrier, the Truman, to their fleet. And this is a wrong message. If you want to stop Netanyahu, you don't do that. I think that what you are doing is like you are giving to a child who has diabetes, you are giving him a cake. Okay? You are giving him cake and you are adding to his problem of diabetes. You are not solving this problem in this way. The only way to solve this problem, even if I want to be in the logic of the United States, is to advise and to push and to make pressure on Netanyahu to go to solutions, not to go to more war. This more war is going to push the United States to a general conflict directly with Iran in the whole Arab Gulf. This is going to destroy the world global economy through the closing of Bab el-Mandeb and Hormuz. This is going to engage the American fleet against the Iranian rockets in the Gulf and maybe in the Mediterranean. So I think that this American position, which is a weak position concerning Israel, regarding Israel, is due maybe to the election, where, as you know, the American administration is very sensitive to the Israeli or to the Jewish votes in the United States.
Now, what do you believe are the potential consequences for Iran if it does continue to escalate its military actions against Israel? Do you expect Israel to immediately respond? Do you expect an immediate assistance to the Israeli forces by the American side?
I really don't know. I think that tonight there is an Iranian communique saying that if Israel responds to the missile sent it today, that there will be a lot more and there will be direct kind of direct confrontation. And I don't know if really Israel will go to this way. But I think that the Americans are continuing to advise the Israelis not to go to this way. But I think that it's a very weak pressure from the Americans towards Israel.
Your Excellency, now, the Israeli airstrikes resulted in significant civilian casualties. They impacted the international perceptions of Israel's military strategy and its legitimacy in the region. Do you think that is still the case? And do you think that the current Iranian strikes that are taking place, will it change or alter or maybe validate the public opinion?
You know, think since the war in Gaza and first the Israeli diaspora or the Israeli community around the world changed a little bit than before. So they are becoming more criticizing against Netanyahu and his government. And I think that this has some influence in the Occidental government, because the Occidental government are listening to the voices of their Jewish communities in their country. So if the opinion of this Jewish community is changing, I think that the international community will change also. If you open newspapers, you will read every day very great Israeli journalists in Ma'ariv, in Harorat, others criticizing the government. If you open any media, you will hear a lot of international personalities, personalities, Jewish, criticizing the government of Israel. And I think that this is going to have some influence. Maybe it's too soon to think about a great influence, but I think that there will be a certain amount of influence on the position of the world. I think that everybody, not everybody, but a large part of the world actually is understanding that Israel is no more the victim that they tried to show it before. That Israel was the aggressor, is the aggressor on many fronts, on the Palestinian front, on the Lebanese front, on any other front. And
yes.
There is a very solid need to reach a political solution, concerning the two states for Palestine, and the solution concerning the implementation of the United Nations decision 1701 for Lebanon.
Yes, former Lebanese Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Faris Boiz, thank you very much, Your Excellency, for joining us. We continue our live coverage here on Q News. The Iranian missile strikes that targeted Tel Aviv are still being covered by our channel, and we are witnessing earlier and live footage of Tel Aviv. And with us now is Mr. Ahmed Maharim, the political writer and researcher, to discuss the situation further. Welcome, Mr. Ahmed. Now, sir, what are the implications that you do foresee from the Iraqi Prime Minister's warning about the region entering a critical phase, particularly in light of these events? Following October 7th, of course.
Yeah. Thank you so much for inviting me. First of all, I just would like to apologize. In a few minutes, I will be heading to another very important meeting, but it seems like the escalating of the situation in the Middle East is what the American leaders in the American government were warning Benjamin Netanyahu from doing so. But I think, according to Benjamin Netanyahu's thoughts, this is a very good opportunity for him. America is very busy with the local situation of the election of 2024, plus the speech of Benjamin Netanyahu last Friday at the United Nations General Assembly. It shows that he is not willing for any kind of discussion, negotiation. He is hidden of what he has in his mind. If he was not successful to do any achievement on the ground in Gaza for 1 year, almost more than 11 months, and he would like to go forward for Lebanon. What happened with the last few days and few weeks with the leaders of, Lebanon and the leaders of what Lebanon is suffering from for the last few years, Hezbollah. I think he is trying to do something to show his citizens and his cabinet that he can be very successful. He put Iran in a very difficult situation, and Iran actually has no choice. And even so, whatever is happening is exactly what we are suffering from, and we are afraid from, that escalating is not in the favor of the region. But Benjamin Netanyahu is not listening to anybody. He is just listening to his own objective in order to achieve something in the near future, taking in his calculation that the circumstances of the time is going to be on his side. America is so busy with I mean, the local circumstances of the election. I'm glad to do so from New York, but according to my engagement for the next few minutes, I just would like to apologize. Maybe in the near future I can join you for more time if that will be possible.
Mr. Muharrem, now internationally, Mr. Muharrem, are you still with us?
Yeah, I do speak from New York, yes.
Yes. Well, how might the UN Secretary General's condemnation of the escalation in the Middle East influence international responses to the ongoing conflict? And will there be swift responses?
I think what Benjamin Netanyahu is doing, he has certain kind or level of green card from America, but Europe, I think the view of Europe will be different. So to what extent the international efforts from Europe to enforce with American, I think something will be different in the next few days. Lebanon is very important to the European, especially to France. And to the Middle East, I don't think America is willing of what Benjamin Netanyahu is trying to do. But I think Benjamin Netanyahu is still doing what he would like to do, taking the advantage that America, according to him, is very weak right now, and the cabinet.
Foreign Minister's urgent warning to Iran regarding the current escalation.
Well, most of the European leaders will do the same, giving Iran certain advices not to escalate the situation. And Iran actually has a very difficult, very complicated situation. She is in a very difficult position. What happened for the last few weeks, something has to be done by the leaders of Iran, and accordingly, they also have in their consideration, they are pulled by Israel to do so in order that Benjamin Netanyahu can achieve his objective and more escalation to the situation. So Iran has to deal with the matter in a very specific and consider that any escalation will not be on the favor of Iran itself and the region. Israel is trying hard for the next few weeks, taking the advantage that America, from the point of busy with the election, and also Benjamin Netanyahu has certain kind of green line from the political side, and also the Minister of Defense of the state says that in Israel will be in danger. We are supposed to send soldiers to the area.
Mr. Muharrem, now, the Iranian state television claimed that 80% of the missiles fired at Israel hit their targets. Now, how credible are these reports? And if true, what impact might this have on the Israeli defense strategies?
Well, to be honest, nothing is clear. We are hearing from different resources, but to be honest, the situation is very, very hard to understand and to evaluate. Each side has to say what he's supposed to consider good in his behalf, but I think it is for the next few hours and days, the situation considered or needs a kind of calm, a kind of justice, and a kind of wisdom also from all the sides, starting from America. I think the leaders of America have to do something in order to stop Benjamin Netanyahu of going further for that. I do appreciate, but maybe I have to take a permission if I can leave because I have some commitment. I appreciate. Thank you so much.
Mr. Muharrem, are you still with us, sir? Now, speaking of the Israeli defense strategies, now, what about the capabilities of the Israeli defense strategies and ability to deal with the situation in Gaza, deal with the situation in Lebanon, and respond to the Iranian attacks and defend its own citizens?
That's a good question. I think the capability of Israeli forces is not only counting on how far they have to go to harm the other side, either Palestinian or Lebanese, but the most difficult situation and complicated, the citizens of Israel, they are living on the area of borders. So the most critical position Israel has to consider is if Hezbollah still can do what he can do, plus still fighting there and here in Gaza with the Hamas people, that will not make it easy for the Israeli. Israeli has to do some kind of wisdom in order to find a good solution. It will never be win-win situation unless Israel has to understand that those people, they were suffering for the last few years, and they have to get respect and get considered that diplomats is the only thing to get a better solution. War and fighting and killing is not guarantee Israel peace. They have to consider that a compromise has to be taking place in the region with the help of the international leaders.
So what about the diplomatic efforts? I mean, some sort of heads need to prevail. Calmness should be prevailing. Is that too much to expect or to ask in a time where we are witnessing military and aggressive escalations taking place by the minute?
Well, it is actually very sad to say diplomats. If you look to the last Friday at the General Assembly, the speech of Benjamin Netanyahu, that speech, if you make any analysis, it killed any kind of diplomat. It doesn't give any respect to the United Nations where he was standing on the ground floor of the General Assembly to talk. Also has no respect for the international power starting from America, the host country of the United Nations. So I hope some kind of effort can be done in order to restore the respect and influence of the United Nations. Otherwise, we're going to be in a very bad situation for all the global.
Mr. Ahmed Maharim, the political writer and researcher, thank you very much for joining us here, sir, on Q News. Ladies and gentlemen, our coverage continues. We are now witnessing and watching live footage of Tel Aviv and footage from the earlier Iranian missile strike that was targeting Tel Aviv. Ladies and gentlemen, we continue our coverage here on Q News, so please stay with us.
Right, you're still watching Qnews with the latest updates coming here, and we're bringing you the updates minute by minute. And an armed operation took place in the heart of Tel Aviv and Jaffa, resulting in several casualties, according to Israeli media reports. Initial estimates regarding the number of dead and injured varied. Some sources indicated the fatalities from the Jaffa attack reached 8, while others reported 6 individuals in critical conditions. Additionally, some Israeli outlets stated there were 10 injured, with 6 in critical conditions, while the Israeli Army radio reported 4 individuals in serious conditions. In related developments, the Israeli Occupation Army announced the evacuation of all citizens to shelters as the Iranian attack began. Reports indicated a second wave of Iranian missiles targeted Tel Aviv. This escalation follows a senior U.S. official's statement that the U.S. has evidence suggesting Iran is preparing for a ballistic missile strike on Israel soon. The official emphasized that any direct military action by Iran against Israel would carry severe repercussions for Tehran. This Iranian response comes after the assassination of Hezbollah Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah last Friday, which Iran vowed to avenge. Over the past 2 weeks, intense Israeli airstrikes have targeted key Hezbollah and Iranian Revolutionary Guard leaders, resulting in around 1,000 civilian deaths and displacing 1 million people, as reported by the Lebanese government. The Lebanese Ministry of Health noted that at least 95 people were killed and 172 injured in Israeli strikes across southern Lebanon in the Beqa installations. Reports indicated that over 400 rockets were launched from Iran towards Israel. Media outlets noted that a building in northern Tel Aviv was hit, leading to severe injuries, and there were reports of an Iranian missile landing directly in the city. Additionally, there were reports of damage to an Israeli gas platform in the Mediterranean Sea. The Israeli army warned Iran that it had made a grave mistake, while U.S. President Joe Biden commented on the situation, stating, "We are prepared to help Israel attack Iran," and affirming that the United States stands ready to assist Israel in defending itself and protecting its forces in the region, according to Reuters. Iranian television confirmed that missile strikes targeted sites within Israel from the Iranian territories. The Israeli army has warned that the Iranian missile attacks could be extensive, leading to a state of heightened security as sirens sounded with the commencement of the missile launches from Iran. For further analysis on the escalating tensions in Lebanon, we are now joined by Mr. Nahi Jubran, the military and strategic expert, to discuss the recent escalations. Good evening to you, sir.
Good evening.
Now, what specific events or actions by Israel do you believe triggered the recent armed operation in Tel Aviv and Jaffa?
Okay, first allow me to thank all the free country who is helping Lebanon in this crisis. First of all, I think today is a turning point in the war and in the region, which may lead to World War III. I'm talking seriously. I don't want to defend Iran or others. I just want to defend my great country, Lebanon. I think more countries are involved due to the severe aggression of the Israeli forces and the use of those extremely dangerous weapons against our country. And you know, we have now more than 1 million people displaced from their homes, and the crisis is getting more and more fatal. I think if it will, we need ceasefire now, not tonight and not tomorrow, at once. So,
let me here ask you, sir, again, what from your point of view has triggered this Iranian attack on Israel, and exactly what was the latest attacks by Israel that made Iran come out with such an attack?
Okay, my opinion, I don't know really the Iranian opinion or how they make the decision to attack or not attack. I'm not at that side, okay?
Right.
But, I know that we are in a severe situation now.
We're just speaking strategically. So
Yes.
strategically, from your point of view, what triggered this attack?
Okay, strategically, I think the leaders of Hezbollah are very much engaged with the Iranian people and the Iranian parliament. If you can see, if I watched on TV, as you watched, the Iranian deputies at the parliament, they were very excited. I don't know how to express it, really, because I know that there is a bad feeling about it, and they need to do something or any reaction. Okay.
Mhm. Right. Let me here ask you, how do the reported civilian casualties in Lebanon influence the justification for Iran's retaliatory missile strikes against Israel?
Say it again, please.
Again. So from your point of view, how do the reported civilian casualties in Lebanon influence the justification for Iran's retaliatory missile strikes against Israel? We're speaking here about Lebanon. We're speaking here about lots of casualties up to this minute. So we're speaking here about the justification of Iran's retaliating. Or are we speaking about Iran retaliating for the Lebanese killed? Are we speaking about Iran retaliating for the killing of the Hezbollah chief Hassan Nasrallah, for the killing of Hamas chief Haniya? What is the justification here?
About Haniya, they did nothing, okay? But I really don't know how the mentality, the Iranian mentality. But every day now we have hundreds of dead people, thousands of wounded. I don't know which one is the trigger, because Haniya wasn't the trigger, and now I don't know.
Right. From your point of view, what role do you think the United States should play in addressing the escalation between Israel and Iran, particularly given its support for Israel, the unequivocal support?
I have a very simple answer for this. The UN should do their job. They should conserve peace to the world, and they should avoid any escalation in any war.
So you're speaking here about sheltering the responsibilities. You're speaking about the UN. I'm speaking about the U.S. The U.S. since it has extended its support to Israel.
Okay, we the people in Lebanon, we trust the U.S. judgment. We trust all the values, the U.S. values about liberty, about democracy, and we still believe in their great role to prevent any aggression, any more escalation, and to help us because we share a lot of values, and we share. In fact, we in Lebanon we use U.S. dollars more than in the U.S. You use a paycheck and you use this credit card. We use cash money, U.S. cash money.
Right. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us and for your fruitful analysis here. And I guess now we go live to a live feed from the White House. Right, we'll get to the live feed from the Washington, D.C. and from the White House in minutes. Right now, we are following up with what's going on in Israel, and we've seen this armed operation that took place by surprise in the heart of Tel Aviv and Jaffa, and has already resulted in several casualties. And we're also speaking about initial estimates regarding the number of dead and injured that varied from several sources. We're speaking about fatalities from Jaffa attack reaching 8 people, and others reporting 6 individuals in critical conditions. Also, Israeli outlets stated that there were 10 injured with 6 in critical conditions, while the Israeli Army radio reported 4 individuals in serious conditions. Also, in related developments, the Israeli Occupation Army announced the evacuation of all citizens to shelters or shelter bunkers as the Iranian attack began, and reports indicated a second wave of Iranian missile targeting Tel Aviv. Now, the escalation followed a senior U.S. official statement that the U.S. has evidence suggesting Iran was preparing for a ballistic missile strike on Israel soon. And the same official emphasized that any direct military action by Iran against Israel would carry severe repercussions for Tehran. Definitely, the Iranian response came after the assassination of Hezbollah Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah last Friday, in which Iran has already vowed to avenge. Over the past 2 weeks, intense Israeli airstrikes have targeted key Hezbollah and Iranian Revolutionary Guard leaders, resulting in around 1,000 citizens or civilians' deaths and the displacement of 1 million people. This has been reported by the Lebanese government. As we're seeing now in live from Israel, in the pictures in Tel Aviv and in other areas in Israel, we're still seeing some of the missiles hitting houses. We're also seeing a relative calm in some other areas in Israel. In Tel Aviv, it seems that relative calm is being seen here, as seen live in our footage and video coming live from the Israeli territories. And getting back to the incidents that occurred earlier, and the Iranian response, as we said, comes after the assassination of Hezbollah Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah last Friday, and Iran has already vowed to avenge. And we've been seeing intense Israeli airstrikes that have targeted key Hezbollah and Iranian Revolutionary Guard leaders, resulting in around 1,000 civilian deaths and the displacement of 1 million people. This according to the Lebanese government. Now, the Lebanese Ministry of Health noted that at least 95 people were killed and 172 injured in Israeli strikes across southern Lebanon, the Bekaa Valley and Beirut in the last 24 hours. The warnings were echoed by U.S. officials following Iranian declaration that it would not send forces to Lebanon to support Hezbollah. Iranian television reported that missiles launched from Iranian territory struck targets inside Israel, and the Iranian Revolutionary Guards recently stated that Israel would be targeted again if it retaliated. The Israeli media reported that defenses are intercepting Iranian drones and missiles over Tel Aviv. The U.S. Embassy has said in Israel, or rather it issued a high-level alert to its employees instructing them to return home and prepare for sheltering. According to the Israeli Army radio, more than 250 ballistic missiles have struck various areas in Israel, including military installations. Reports indicated that over 400 rockets were launched from Iran towards Israel. And media outlets noted that a building in northern Tel Aviv was hit, leading to severe injuries, and there were reports of an Iranian missile landing directly in the city. There were also reports of damage to an Israeli. The Israeli army warned Iran that it had made a grave mistakes. Definitely remains to be seen what would be the Israeli revenge, or what are the upcoming scenarios. Now, the US President, Mr. Joe Biden, has commented on the situation, stating that we are prepared to help Israel attack Iran, and affirmed that the United States stands ready to assist Israel in defending itself and protecting its forces in the region. The Iranian television also confirmed that missile strikes targeted sites within Israel from Iranian territories, and the Israeli army has warned that Iranian missiles attacked could be extensive, leading to a state of heightened security as sirens sounded with the commencement of missile launches from Iran. Still, we're in our coverage, and still we're bringing you the live videos from Israel, and it seems like there are still some of the missiles hitting. Now I guess we go now live. Now we go live to the White House.
Report on the Iranian ballistic missile attack against Israel that occurred earlier today. I can take just a few questions because this is an ongoing situation and I need to get back to my desk. Today, Iran launched nearly 200 ballistic missiles towards targets in Israel. The United States military coordinated closely with the Israeli Defense Forces to help defend Israel against this attack. U.S. naval destroyers joined Israeli air defense units in firing interceptors to shoot down inbound missiles. President Biden and Vice President Harris monitored the attack and the response from the White House Situation Room, joined in person and remotely by their national security team. We are still working with the IDF and the authorities in Israel to assess the impact of the attack. But at this time, and I stress at this time, we do not know of any deaths in Israel. We are tracking the reported death of a Palestinian civilian in Jericho in the West Bank. We do not know of any damage to aircraft or strategic military assets in Israel. In short, based on what we know at this point, this attack appears to have been defeated and ineffective. This was first and foremost the result of the professionalism of the IDF, but in no small part because of the skilled work of the U.S. military and meticulous joint planning in anticipation of the attack. We are also aware of reports of a terrorist attack in Jaffa that took the lives of a number of Israeli civilians and wounded several others today. Our condolences go out to the families of the victims and to the family of the Palestinian civilian in Jericho. Obviously, my update here is based on early reports, and we reserve the right to amend and adjust as necessary as we gather more information. The word fog of war was invented for a situation like this. This is a fluid situation. We will consult with the Israelis on next steps in terms of the response and how to deal with what Iran has just done, and we will continue to monitor for further threats and attacks from Iran and its proxies. We are particularly focused on protecting U.S. service members in the region. And with that, I'll take just a few questions. Yeah.
Thanks, Jake. Is the administration making any preparations to evacuate U.S. citizens from Lebanon or elsewhere in the region?
We have been very clear for some time now that U.S. citizens should avail themselves of commercial means to depart Lebanon, given everything that's going on. We have said that from this podium, from multiple podiums. We continue to say that, but we have not begun triggering a non-combatant emergency evacuation, a NEO, and do not have an intention to do so at this time. If that changes, we'll let you know. But we continue to reinforce the point. American citizens in Lebanon should follow the guidance from the State Department, which is to find civilian commercial means to depart, because in extremis, we may not be able to get them out safely. Yes.
Thanks, Jake. What is the U.S. view on whether Israel should retaliate, and what is your concern about this leading to a wider escalation of war in the region?
We've had some initial discussions with the Israelis in the aftermath of this at the military level and also at the White House to Prime Minister's office level. We'll continue those conversations in the hours ahead. I'm not going to prejudge or get ahead of anything. We want to have some deep consultations with the Israelis, and I'll have more to report to you after we get the opportunity for deeper discussions.
And escalation in the region?
Obviously, this is a significant escalation by Iran, a significant event, and it is equally significant that we were able to step up with Israel and create a situation in which no one was killed in this attack in Israel, so far as we know at this time. We are now going to look at what the appropriate next steps are to secure, first and foremost, American interests, and then to promote stability to the maximum extent possible as we go forward. Yeah.
Back in April, the president's message to Israel was to take the win when the U.S. and Israel were able to intercept the barrage of Iranian missiles. Is he recommending a similarly limited response this time?
I will not, from this podium, share the president's recommendations. He will have the opportunity to share them directly. We're going to. It is too early for me to tell you anything publicly in terms of our assessment or in terms of what our expectations are of the Israelis or the advice that we will give them.
So will he be speaking to Prime Minister Netanyahu today?
I don't have anything to announce from this podium, but I can tell you that he is tracking this minute by minute. We are very much deeply in touch with the Israelis, and insofar as we have calls to read out, we'll make sure to read them out with you. Just last question, then I'll turn it over.
Thank you, Jake. In April, after Iran struck Israel, the U.S. issued a number of sanctions as a consequence. This morning, the president said there would be severe consequences if Iran carried out this attack. What are those consequences, and are they more severe than sanctions?
Totally legitimate question, and that answer will come based on the conversations and consultations we have with our Israeli counterparts. It's too soon for me to stand before you today and give you an answer. What I can tell you is this. We are proud of the actions that we've taken alongside Israel to protect and defend Israel. We have made clear that there will be consequences, severe consequences for this attack, and we will work with Israel to make that the case. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Jake. This morning, President Biden was briefed by his Homeland Security Advisor, Liz Sherwood Randall, on the latest impacts of Hurricane Helene, and this afternoon he will receive an interagency briefing on the Hurricane Helene response and recovery efforts. At the President's direction, the Biden-Harris administration continues to use every tool available to get assistance and resources to the communities that need them the most. Yesterday, the President approved a major disaster declaration for Georgia, which will unlock additional assistance to help those recovering. This is in addition to the major disaster declaration swiftly approved by the President following requests from North Carolina, South Carolina, and Florida, as well as requests for emergency assistance across 7 states. Tomorrow, the President will travel to Raleigh, North Carolina, where he will visit the State Emergency Operations Center to meet with local officials and also first responders. And the Vice President will travel to Augusta, Georgia tomorrow. Today, thousands of personnel from across the federal workforce are deployed in supporting state-led Hurricane Helene response efforts across the 6 affected states, including over 1,200 personnel in North Carolina. Still, there is more work to be done, and the Biden-Harris administration will be there for these communities every step of the way. Now, as you can see, we also have Secretary of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas.
Thank you, Corinne, and good afternoon. Before standing at the podium, I was at FEMA's National Operations Center being briefed by our personnel as well as state emergency personnel. I thought it very moving and very telling that North Carolina's Emergency Management Director described Hurricane Helene as catastrophic and noted the fact that numerous towns situated along the river had virtually disappeared, had been completely destroyed. In fact, Hurricane Helene is of an historic magnitude. This many states hit this hard. The wind field of the hurricane stretched 350 miles from its center. More than 100 fatalities have been reported, hundreds and hundreds of homes and businesses destroyed. Our hearts break for those who have lost loved ones, and we pray for the swift assistance and rescue of those who are currently missing. We are in different phases of a post-hurricane environment depending on the state and the location within the state. In some areas, we are still in search and recovery, search and rescue operations. In others, we are, in fact, in the response and recovery phase.
Right, welcome back, and we're still in our coverage where we have seen this feed from the White House, and we saw Jack Sullivan, the National Security Advisor, speaking about the latest Iranian attack to Israel, where he said that 250 missiles were hit Israel today, and it was a severe attack. However, he said that the U.S. was coordinating with the Israeli forces in confronting the Israeli attacks. He said that the U.S. destroyers were present to defend Israel. He also said that the President and the Vice President followed closely the events. He also spoke about some of the casualties and death toll that took place, and he spoke about also civilians that were killed or injured in Jericho, and they will be taking effective steps in this upcoming situation. However, he did not specify exactly what will be the next steps. He also spoke about the situation, describing it as fluid, and that they will be consulting with Israeli authorities so as to take the upcoming steps. Mr. Jack or Mr. Sullivan spoke or answered several questions about that were asked about citizens and whether they were able to evacuate the U.S. citizens from Lebanon, and he said that they spoke to U.S. citizens there and told them to to evacuate Lebanon as soon as they can in commercial planes. And he insisted, or he affirmed, that they did not pull any of the U.S. combat forces from there, and he said that they were still consulting with Israel of what would be the next step. And definitely he was when he was asked what could be the upcoming steps or the repercussions, he said that the Iranian attack today was a very, very severe one that could change the landscape of the whole situation. He also said that that this would also step up a situation with Israel, and did not know what would be the next steps. However, he said that it was too early to speak about the assessments and the expectations, and they have to wait and see how will their consultation with the Israeli forces and authorities would come up with. However, he said clearly that there will be severe consequences for today's attack. Later on, there was the presidential press secretary, Karen Jean-Pierre, and another U.S. high-ranking official speaking about a hurricane and a visit by the U.S. president and the vice president to affected areas. Now back to our coverage and our live coverage to the events. And as we're seeing here live from Tel Aviv, relatively calm is taking place. In the other picture we're seeing, or in the other video we're seeing Tel Aviv moments ago when the Iranian attack started with a barrage of ballistic missiles. And of course there has been lots and lots of expectations to what would be the next scenarios following such an attack. The Iranian attacks have hit Tel Aviv and Jaffa, and it came, or as reported by the Iranian officials and the Iranian media, that it came in response to the assassination of Hezbollah's Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah, and then Iran has vowed to avenge. Of course, during the past 2 weeks, we've seen intense Israeli airstrikes targeting key Hezbollah and Iranian Revolutionary Guards leaders, resulting in around 1,000 civilian deaths in Lebanon and the displacement of 1 million people. This has been reported by the Lebanese government, and the Lebanese Ministry of Health noted that at least 95 people were killed and 172 injured in the Israeli strikes. Right. Welcome back, and we're joined by Mr. Hassan Edaga, a political analyst and political science professor, to discuss the recent escalation in the region. Mr. Edaga, good evening to you. Hello. I guess until we get back to Mr. Daga, we're back to our coverage, and we're seeing further escalation in tensions, and we're seeing here parts of Tel Aviv live now, where relative calm is appearing here, and vis-a-vis the moments ago where we've seen this severe strike by Iran to many areas inside Tel Aviv and Java. It is hard to say exactly what exactly were the number of casualties, but as reported by Israeli reports, some spoke about 8 killed in these attacks. Some spoke about 6 others in other areas in Iran. And are we back? Good evening to you, Mr. Hassan Al-Daga. Good evening to you. Hello.
Good evening to you and for the audience.
Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Hassan Daga, the political science professor. And we're discussing the recent escalation in the region. And let me ask you here, given the recent escalation in the region, what role is Egypt playing in mediating tensions in the Middle East?
I think now the escalation is going ahead because of Israeli attack to South Lebanon, and there are other areas in Beirut, especially after the result of the bombing of the office of Hezbollah and killing the General Secretary of Hezbollah, Mr. Hassan Nasrallah. And also this is answer of attack in Tehran by killing, assassinating the Ismail Haniyeh at the previous time. So this is a message from Iran to Israel not to attack South Lebanon or not to go by armed forces to attack Lebanon. So this attack by Iranian is a message to Israel. And Israel also, they said that they will get back to revenge from this attack by plastic missiles from Iran. So I think the escalation is going ahead. But even though neither Iran or Israel want to go in a comprehensive war, even the American administration, they don't want to go to a comprehensive war. America just defending the Israeli from the Iranian missile.
But from your point of view, what diplomatic measures can be taken to de-escalate this situation and prevent further violence? And given definitely the current escalating violence in the area in the Middle East?
I think the escalation is going ahead because of the attitudes of the Israeli government not to cease fire in Gaza. Gaza is the main question for the escalation of the military escalation and attacks between by Hezbollah or by Houthi from Yemen or from some resistance groups from Iraq at the same time. I think the main matter is to stop war in Gaza and to start a talk to release the prisoners on two sides at the same time, and to start a talk to the listing solutions for two-state solution. But the Israeli government is refusing even this solution, and this many resolutions from the United Nations, which is favor to the Palestinians to build and to establish their state. This is the problem that I think now the escalation is going ahead because of Israeli attack to South Lebanon, and there are other areas in Beirut, especially after the result of the bombing of the office of Hezbollah and killing the General Secretary of Hezbollah, Mr. Hassan Nasrallah. And also this is the answer of attack in Tehran by killing, assassinating
right, Mr. Hassan Al-Daga, we have to go right now live to Mr. Matthew Miller, the U.S. Department of State spokesman, for some of the comments.
conversations with the Israelis about that. Can you give us a sense for how U.S. officials are thinking about this right now in terms of magnitude of a response? Will it be more severe than the U.S. response to the Iranian attack on Israel in April, given your...
So I think it's too early to get into what the response might be. As I said, we're just a couple hours after this event having occurred. It's important that all of us inside the United States be able to take stock of the attack, be able to take stock of what occurred. As I said, there are initial assessments, but we need time to collect all of the information, and we need time to talk with our Israeli counterparts, and we need time to talk to other partners in the region about the way forward. And we'll do that over the coming days. But it is clear that this was once again a significant escalation by Iran. When you see Iran launching attacks on another state, ultimately to come to the defense of a terrorist organization. It is an escalation, and Israel has the right to defend itself, but we will coordinate with them on what any response looks like.
How much more worried are you about a regional war today than you were in previous days before this attack occurred?
So I've gotten that question a number of times over the past year, and I never want to try and calibrate our level of concern, only to say, or other than to say that preventing the outbreak of a full-scale regional conflagration has been one of our priorities since October 7th. It's something that we immediately identified was a risk after Hamas launched its brutal attacks on Israel, and something that we have been working to prevent. There have been a number of times in the past 12 months where it looked like we might reach such a conflagration. April 13th is one of them, quite obviously. And the United States, through a combination of deterrence and diplomacy, has been able to prevent such an outbreak of full-scale war. And we will continue to try and prevent an outbreak of full-scale war in the days and weeks ahead.
Just a few more questions. Is Iran's nuclear program a legitimate target for an Israeli response?
Again, I don't want to get into, and this is not to to say that I'm ruling anything out and that I'm ruling anything in, but I would answer any question this way, which is, we want to have these conversations directly with our Israeli counterparts over the coming days. It's clear that this was an unacceptable attack, and as we made clear before this attack, there will be consequences for it, but I think it's appropriate that we discuss those consequences with our Israeli counterparts before we talk about them publicly.
Any other countries involved in defending Israel alongside the United States?
There were partners, as I said in my opening comments, who assisted in the defense of Israel. I will let all of those partners speak to their own actions.
And last question, is the attack over as far as the U.S. assessment is?
Certainly this initial wave of an attack is over, which is not to say that there are other waves coming, or that there, is not to say that there are other waves coming. We saw an initial attack earlier today against the state of Israel. Certainly it would be incredibly reckless and would continue to be escalatory were Iran to launch further attacks on Israel, and we'll be monitoring in the hours ahead.
There have been a lot of parallels drawn between Iran's attacks on Israel we saw in April and what happened today. The big difference is that back in the spring, Iran did message for weeks the kind of attack it was going to carry out against Israel, as opposed to this time around, it seemed to be very sudden by comparison. That lack of warning, public messaging, do you read into that? Is there any diplomatic significance?
You know, I don't want to try to make assessments about why Iran made the decisions it made, or why it kind of telegraphed them publicly last time and didn't do so this time. Obviously, we had some indication that an attack might be in the works. You saw us talking about that. We made clear.
Other than to say, again, we're consulting closely about next steps and the continued defense of Israel.
What does Secretary Austin think about the potential for an Israeli response here? Would he urge them, without saying what he said in the call necessarily, but what are his feelings about the potential? Would he urge them restraint, or?
Well, look, you know, if you take a step back here, we fully support Israel's right to defend itself. You just saw a very significant ballistic missile attack by Iran against Israel. And so, you know, we'll continue to work alongside them to support their defense. We, of course, do not want to see a wider regional conflict. You've heard us say that many times, and we'll continue to work towards that end. But we also fully understand the fact that this was a significant attack by Iran, and so we're going to continue to consult closely, and we're going to continue to support their defense. Let me go to Laura.
Thank you. Just a couple of clarifications. You say that the U.S. destroyers had
intercepted or shot down the missiles, or just that they fired?
I said that they fired approximately a dozen interceptors against the incoming Iranian missiles.
And were there any U.S. aircraft that shot interceptors at Iranian missiles?
What I've read out is what participated in the defense of Israel. Okay.
And then, sorry, just one more. Can you say if there were any drones or cruise missiles that were involved in the Iranian
Again,
attack?
still assessing it right now. It appears it was ballistic missiles, no drones, but again, we'll continue to assess. Let me go to Joseph and then we'll come here.
Thank you. Just wanted to turn to the Israeli invasion in Lebanon. For the past couple of months, the department and the secretary have called for de-escalation. You guys have voiced your opposition to any ground incursion, invasions, limited operations. After we found out that the Israeli strike last week killed the Hezbollah chief, it seems the tone changed. From the statements last night, the department and the secretary said they supported what Israel is doing. So what changed for a change in that tone and that stance from the department?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, Joseph, is we fully support Israel's right to defend itself against Hezbollah. As we understand it, they will be conducting limited operations to destroy Hezbollah infrastructure that's arrayed along the border there that could be used to threaten Israeli citizens. And so we're continuing to consult with the Israelis to better understand how they intend to go forward. Obviously, I'd refer you to them to talk or ask questions about details regarding those operations. But we fully understand as part of their overall efforts to return people home that they do need to address those threats that are along the border there. And so all that to say, we will continue to consult with the Israelis and other partners in the region. De-escalate those tensions and get to a ceasefire.
Have they asked for any help from you guys doing whatever it is that they want to do?
No. Yes, sir.
Were the United States surprised by the scale of the Iranian attack on Israel?
Well, look, like I said before, we've been monitoring this for a while. Iran had been very public about its threats to retaliate. And so it's something that we've been monitoring. Certainly, this was a significant attack, probably about twice the size in terms of scope of what we saw earlier. But again, we're still assessing the outcomes of this. And as I highlighted at the top, we certainly condemn this reckless attack, this direct attack against Israel, and we'll continue to support Israel's defense.
Several Israeli media spoke about a response tonight, Israeli response tonight to this attack, including some, not just Iran, some other Middle Eastern countries. Will the United States be assisting the Israelis in their response?
Well, I'm not going to speculate about hypotheticals. I'd refer you to the Israelis to talk about, well, what you're asking me is if they're going to do something, and what I'm saying is I'm not going to speculate about what or if they may do. As I highlighted to several of your colleagues, we're consulting closely with the Israelis in terms of next steps, with the emphasis being the defense of Israel. So let me go to this side of the room. Oren.
Essentially a follow-up to that question, is the U.S. willing to strike Iran in response to this? Are you putting that on or off the table?
Well, look, Arnett, again, I don't want to get into hypotheticals. I think I was very clear at the top that should U.S. forces be targeted by Iran or its proxies, we'll take necessary steps to defend our people. And I think we've also been very clear that we're going to support the defense of Israel. And so I'm not going to get into theoretical or speculative operations at this stage, other than to say, we mean what we say and we say what we mean.
And then a follow-up question. Iran claims to have used a new Fatah missile, which is supposed to be a hypersonic ballistic missile. Can you assess whether they did use new and advanced weaponry in this attack and whether they learned from the April attack?
Again, we're still assessing the attack and the outcomes, and so we may have more to provide later, but I don't have anything on that right now. Dan.
Thanks for your time. 2 questions, please. On Secretary Austin's statement last night, he referred to being supportive of operations along the border. Is he open to Israel using operations on both sides of the border? Along the border was a little vague there.
Well, I think I'd go back to how I responded to Joseph, right? We understand and support Israel's right to defend itself against Hezbollah, as we highlighted in the readout. We understand that part of that is dismantling some of the attack infrastructure that Hezbollah has built along the border. Certainly, again, we don't want to see this, broaden into a wider regional conflict, but we understand, again, that what Israel is doing are limited operations to destroy that attack infrastructure, and then enable citizens on both sides of the border to return home. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we do think that a diplomatic resolution is the only way to achieve lasting stability and security across the Israel-Lebanon border. So, we're going to continue to work to that end, but we also, again, understand Israel's need to defend itself.
And then a follow. The State Department read out a report on an attack on a diplomatic facility at Baghdad Airport last night. Have you seen any other attacks on U.S. forces, I guess, since Friday? This one would seem to be on a diplomatic facility, but be it in the last day, particularly at this heightened time of tension, or just broadly over the last couple of days?
Yeah, as of right now, I'm not aware of any additional attacks. Thanks. Sir.
The Iron Dome, how effective is it against ballistic missiles? And some of the televised images appeared to show some of them landing on infrastructure. Are you aware of that? In general, was this attack more effective than the Iranian attack in April?
Again, understanding that a lot is still very initial. As I highlighted, initial indications are that there was minimal damage on the ground. In terms of the specifics, though, I'd have to refer you to Israel really to talk through that. And again, as more information comes in, we'll certainly know more. But the initial assessment is that Israel was able to successfully defend itself, of course, with the support from the U.S. And so, again, we may have more later on that. Helene?
Thanks, Pat. I just want to be clear, because it seems like we're at a very dangerous time where any kind of ambiguity from the U.S. could lead to an attack on American troops. And when you say I understand when you say that we're going to defend any attack at American troops. I also understand that that you said that no American troops were hurt. Therefore, are you saying the U.S. is not planning on a kinetic strike against Iran? Because right now, when you say there will be consequences, all of that, you're leaving it vague, and people don't understand. And I want to understand: are we going to be joining Israel in hitting back against Iran in a kinetic manner?
Yeah, so with all due respect, you're talking about a hypothetical future, right? And presupposing what Israel may or may not do. So I'm just not going to talk about...
But you said there will be consequences, and Jake Sullivan said there will be consequences. So
right,
what does
and
that
I think
mean?
broadly speaking, the U.S. has been clear that there will be security, economic consequences should Iran attack, but I just don't have anything to preview specifically as it relates to that. All right. Yes, sir.
Thanks, Pat. Just to clarify, did any U.S. aircraft track any of the missiles either before the launch or during the attack, even if they weren't involved kinetically in the defense of Israel?
So I won't go into specifics, Chris, other than to say, as you well know, we have a wide variety of ISR capabilities throughout the region to monitor and track potential aerial threats, to include aircraft that do that. So I'll just leave it there. Okay. Charlie.
Thank you, General. I know you said repeatedly that Iran doesn't telegraph these attacks, yet from early this morning we were told that an attack would be imminent, so we're getting some sort of information from somewhere. Based on whatever that was based on, where does Iran stand now? Is this just the first salvo? From your assessment, are they positioned to go ahead and pull the trigger again at will?
That's really a question for Iran. As evidenced by this attack, they certainly maintain the capability to conduct additional attacks. As I highlighted at the top, we call on them to halt any further attacks, and we'll continue to assess. We'll also continue to be prepared to respond in the defense of Israel should they opt to do another one. We certainly hope that they do not, but we obviously have to be prepared in that eventuality.
I just want to clarify, I think you said earlier this is twice the size and scope from the attack of April 13th?
Yeah, it's about twice as large in terms of the number of ballistic missiles that they launched from the last.
I believe it was their intent to actually do damage this time?
Well, you know, look, you don't launch that many missiles at a target without the intent of hitting something. So absolutely, just like the last time, their intent is to cause destruction. And so, fortunately, you know, Israel has very significant air defense capabilities, and the U.S., of course, played a role in helping on that front as well. Thank you. Matt?
Thanks, Pat. You said there have been no new attacks on U.S. forces in the region, but is the department tracking a greater threat, any extra measures on top of the recent plus-ups you've done for force protection?
Well, Matt, I mean, as you know, we're always taking force protection very seriously. We're all very well aware of the heightened tensions in the region, and U.S. Central Command has been, for a long time now, you know, constantly assessing and reassessing the threat to ensure that our forces are protected. Like I mentioned, I'm not aware, as I come to the podium, I'm not aware of any additional attacks beyond the one that Dan mentioned, but it's something that we'll obviously be, you know, keeping a close eye on to protect our forces.
Secondly, were there any other nations other than the United States and Israel who took part in intercepting missiles or helping to track them or anything like that?
Yeah, I don't have anything to provide on that, and obviously I wouldn't speak for other countries from here. Yes, sir.
General, I'd like to ask you if you guys talk to the European allies and if you ask for military support in protecting Israel in case of another attack from Israel or the proxies, or is at the moment it's only the U.S. Helping Israel military-wise?
Well, I'll allow other countries to speak for themselves. I will say, and we'll put a readout on this this afternoon, you know, as soon as we're done here. The Secretary did have an opportunity to talk to his French counterpart earlier this morning, just to talk about the situation in the Middle East. This was before the Iranian attack occurred, and so
destroyers fired about a dozen interceptors. Did they hit any of the missiles? If so, how many?
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. So again, we're, as you highlight, they fired the interceptors. We're still assessing, again, outcomes of that. So I can't really, I just don't have more information to provide at this time. Okay, let me go to Heather from USNI.
Hi, thank you so much. So you mentioned that the United States has the ability and intent to respond if any of its service members are attacked. Over on Friday, you had two U.S. destroyers and a LCS come under attack from the Houthis. Which is an Iranian proxy group. So would that give, you know, is there any intention to launch any attacks in response to those service members coming under attack?
Well, you know, first of all, Heather, as you are aware, you know, there were no U.S. service members injured in any of those attacks. And as always, we will respond appropriately at a time and place of our choosing, but I'm not going to telegraph or, you know, speculate on any punches at this time. All right, and Patrick Tucker, Defense One.
Hey, yeah, thanks for doing this. So on the announcement of 3 additional aircraft squadrons, F-15s, F-16s, A-10s, I presume that they weren't involved in any of the interception activity. Can you talk a little bit about why they're there and what role they might fill now in terms of enhancing security for U.S. forces in the region?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, as we've been highlighting for a while, we have a robust amount of capability in the Central Command and U.S. European Command regions. And what those capabilities provide us is versatility in terms of responding to a variety of contingencies. And so, you know, basically having the right tools in the toolkit to be able to respond appropriately to any type of attack or contingency situation. And so, as you well know, Pat, fighter aircraft can perform a variety of missions to include taking down drones, taking down missiles, particular kinds of missiles, as well as you know, providing ISR, electronic warfare, and types of capabilities. So all of this comes together to provide us with options on how best to respond to any type of attack and to protect our forces. Let me come back to the room here. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, General. First, on Iran, after today's attack and the expected response from Israel, is the assessment at the Pentagon still that the situation in the Middle East still under control and we're not in all-out war yet? And the second question on Lebanon, excuse me, what's your understanding to what Israel is calling limited ground operations or incursion? Is it limited by, like, in time, in scope? How do you see this?
Sure. So in terms of your first question, as you know, we've been working very hard from the beginning to prevent a wider regional conflict. Certainly the type of aggressive action that we saw by Iran today makes that more challenging. But that continues to remain our focus and remain our goal, is to prevent a wider regional conflict. And so we'll continue to stay laser focused on that. In terms of Israel's operations, again, they're in the best position to answer questions, but our understanding in consulting with them is that, again, these will be limited operations focused on dismantling facilities that Hezbollah has built along the border to stage attacks into Israel. And so, part of those discussions, again, have been focused on making sure that there's an understanding as far as potential mission creep. And so as it relates to the broader tensions in the region. But again, we support their right to defend themselves from Hezbollah attacks. And so we'll continue to consult with them on that. As I mentioned, Wafa, ultimately, we do believe that a diplomatic resolution is the only way to achieve lasting stability and security there. Say a few more. Phil.
A couple small questions. One is, why weren't land-based air defenses used? And did you find that you had, did the United States have fewer partners in trying to knock down these Iranian missiles this time than it did in April?
I would compare it to a pallet, Phil. You're going to use the capability that you need to respond to a particular situation. So, as evidenced by the fact that our forces were able to so quickly support Israel's defense, we have a wide range of capabilities arrayed to be able to respond to whatever those threats may be in the most appropriate way possible. So it's less. What I said is, it should be very clear that if Iran or its proxies use this as an opportunity to attack U.S. forces, we will respond appropriately. Yep. Okay. Last question, Nat.
Thanks, Pat. I just wanted to clarify a few things that you said. In terms of Iran's capabilities going forward, is it clear from the U.S. side that the imminent risk is over of another attack from Iran?
Well, look, it's something we're going to keep an eye on. We certainly hope that there's not another attack, but obviously Iran maintains a capability, and it's just demonstrated that they're willing to use it to directly attack Israel. And so we're going to continue to consult closely with Israel on next steps, and importantly, on the defense of Israel. So,
and on Israel's limited incursion, have they provided any sort of a timeline on how long they would stay there?
I'd refer you to Israel to talk about that. I don't think it'd be appropriate for me to talk about that. Hey, folks, while there's been an understandable focus today on the Middle East, before we conclude, I would like to provide a quick update on a topic closer to home as DoD continues to work with federal, state, and local officials to support Hurricane Helene response efforts. As of this morning, the department has more than 6,500 service members actively engaged in relief efforts across 6 states. Florida has nearly 3,500 guardsmen activated, and Georgia has around 1,400 guardsmen on duty. South Carolina has activated nearly 500 guardsmen, along with 2 helicopters for their recovery efforts. Tennessee has around 130 guardsmen and 7 helicopters activated, and Virginia has activated nearly 60 guardsmen, along with 1 helicopter and numerous high-water vehicles. Additionally, since the storm passed, North Carolina has emerged as an area of particular focus after the historic levels of flooding that occurred in the western part of that state. A multi-state, multi-agency effort is currently underway with more than 80 guardsmen and 13 helicopters from Connecticut, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Iowa, Ohio, New York, South Carolina, and Florida, joining more than 800 North Carolina guardsmen in providing support to devastated North Carolina communities. U.S. Northern Command is also providing active duty support efforts to FEMA, and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is providing emergency power planning and response teams to Georgia, as well as dam, levee, and bridge inspection to Tennessee and Kentucky, and temporary power to North Carolina. For further questions about National Guard missions, I would encourage you to contact the specific states in questions. And for active duty support efforts to FEMA, U.S. Northern Command is standing by. For service-specific evacuation efforts, it's best to contact the services directly. As the DoD continues to aid response efforts, Secretary Austin and department leaders will continue to be engaged and stay in close contact with federal, state, and local officials to ensure resources are available and to maximize a coordinated response. And in the days ahead, the department will continue to keep our fellow Americans who have been impacted by this storm's devastation in our thoughts. Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it.
That I have found over the years in government is when there are conflicting reports, the side that had the opinion that you agreed with was the expert side, and the other side was a bunch of political hacks. And that is always the way that people interpret these. We look at it as all of these officials who made recommendations had expertise, and the secretary valued all of their expertise equally, and ultimately took their recommendations, but also dived into the underlying facts and dived into not just looking backwards months and months and months, but what the change in the situation and the change in the delivery of humanitarian assistance when we made that assessment, and found that to be just as important as the events that had happened in the previous months. And the report's language reflected all of that. We were quite transparent about how we had seen the situation change over time.
Wait a second. I don't understand how you can say the secretary valued all their expertise equally when he rejected the side that
so you can value someone's expertise and still disagree with. I value very much your reporting, Matt. I disagree with some of the stories that you write. You can value.
Well, first of all, I question that.
You can value someone's expertise and still disagree at times with their recommendations when you have conflicting information. It's just,
wait, so there was conflicting information that suggested
you had conflicting assessments from different bureaus inside the department.
Okay, but assessments were based on facts on the ground, right?
They were based on.
Right?
They were.
What was happening on the ground?
So it's not just.
So unless one of these two bureaus just got it wrong and didn't, then they were giving their.
No. It is,
their assessment was based on the facts,
no,
right?
It is not just an assessment of facts on the ground, but how facts changed over time, which is one of the things we laid out in the report, that if you looked at the actions by the government of Israel, and as important as actions at time inaction, things that we had recommended they do that they didn't take, we concluded that some of the actions they took and some of the inactions, things that they hadn't done, had led to a slowdown in delivery of humanitarian assistance. But we had intervened with them, and they had taken a number of meaningful steps in another direction that led us to make the assessment that we did.
To the point where now everything is just fine.
That was as I said, it is an ongoing assessment, and we constantly see deficiencies that we try to alleviate. The situation is nowhere close to fine. Yeah.
On the Israeli raids into Lebanon, just first of all, I mean, do you have any updates on your assessment of what's happening in the ground if these remain limited as has been described?
So as of today, we have continued to see limited targeted raids. I won't speak to the future, but that's what we've seen as of this point.
And I think the Israelis have spoken about.
You're watching Q News. Good evening. Mark Summers here with you this evening, and you're seeing live pictures from Tel Aviv. You were just watching an earlier press conference by the National Security Advisor to President Biden in the United States, Jake Sullivan. And before that, you were watching Patrick Ryder, the Air Force Major General at the Pentagon, giving a briefing. And now we'd like to speak to Tawfiq Hamid for further analysis on the escalating tensions in Lebanon. He's a political researcher, and we're going to discuss the escalations and, of course, the latest Iranian attack in Tel Aviv. Thanks for being with us this evening. What specific events or actions by Israel do you believe triggered the recent armed operation in Tel Aviv and Jaffa?
It's obvious that the attack of Israel on Hezbollah, the latest one, and the killing of Nasrallah was the main factor behind this response. Because if we said Haniyeh, killing of Haniyeh, Ismail Haniyeh was the cause, why it didn't occur earlier than this? So the time relationship is crystal clear that after the killing of Hassan Nasrallah and after the latest attack, the Iranian regime was in a very difficult situation, and they had to respond to show that they are still there, existent, and capable of reaching Israel. So I believe the main reason is a response for the attack on Hassan Nasrallah.
And do you think the reported civilian casualties in Lebanon have influenced the justification for Iran's retaliatory missile strikes against Israel?
I don't think this is the main thing with the Iranian regime. I think for them, what's more than the civilian casualties is the image of the regime among its people, which was relatively humiliated after the latest several attacks. One of them was on the cell phones. Another one by attacking their military bases of missiles and the missile launchers. The third one was on Nasrallah himself. There is some element that when the civilians are suffering, Iran wants to at least not to lose them and make them feel that there is someone who is defending them. So it is a factor, but I cannot claim that it is the main factor.
And do you think perhaps it gives Iran a certain amount of cover when it comes to public relations?
I'm sorry, can you re-explain the question?
Yeah, the civilian casualties on the ground, does that give Iran a reason, in PR terms?
I see the point now. It can give them some form of justification among the Arab and Muslim people and among the population. But when it comes to politics and legalities, when they attacked another sovereign nation without being attacked by Israel initially, it will not be accepted by the international community, and it puts them in more awkward and difficult situation. So it may help them at the people's level, but when it comes to the level of politics and their position in the United Nations and the decisions by the Security Council and the decisions of the major governments, I do believe that this attack will put them in a more awkward situation because they are attacking a sovereign nation, member of the United Nations, without being attacked by this country. So it's they are in a difficult situation now, in my belief.
Okay, well, putting that to one side, Tawfiq Hamid, and you're talking about the international community. Let's focus on the United States. What role do you think the United States should play in addressing the escalation between Israel and Iran, especially given the United States' unqualified, many times, support for Israel?
The United States already have deep relations with Israel at all levels, as you know, from the military level to the intelligence level to treaties between them for common defense, shared defense in such situations. So I do believe the U.S., based on all these circumstances, will certainly remain very strong supportive of Israel and whatever Israel will do in response to this. But if you ask me what the U.S. can do in general in this situation to calm things down, I believe supporting the official Lebanese government and the Lebanese government to take control instead of Hezbollah. This will certainly start to calm the situation and may allow bridges to be built between the two sides and start things to settle down. So I believe allowing or helping the Lebanese system or government or country to control its own territories and end the period of the control of Hezbollah will.
And what do you think the likelihood is of the United States giving that support to the Lebanese government?
To be honest with you, the U.S. government now is very busy with the elections and with internal also issues that they want to solve. Plus, when you add the commitment to defend Israel and the failure on different political fronts that they didn't succeed to achieve any positive step when it comes to peace, for example, ending the issues with Gaza. All of this together will make the U.S. probably reluctant to play this role, at least immediately now. So I do believe in the meantime, we will see just the traditional main support behind Israel in whatever decisions they will take against the Iranian regime.
And what do you think are the potential repercussions for Iran if it continues to escalate its military actions in response?
I believe the response can be extremely tough from Israel. Particularly, they do not know next time if they can reach Tel Aviv and can reach the land of Israel with such a huge number of missiles. Then how could they know that next time they may not send a dirty bomb, for example, that can cause mayhem and cause a lot of trouble to the Israeli nation? Also, they know that Israel hasn't reached a nuke yet, nuclear weapon. But if one mistake happens in this calculation, Israel will be completely destroyed. So it's for them an existential threat, as they always say it. So I believe the response is likely to be very tough against the Iranian regime, particularly the supporters of the Iranian regime and their allies everywhere are causing troubles to the world, like the Houthis in Yemen, for example. They disturb the shipping in the Red Sea area, and they affected the economy of the world and affected many other countries economically as well by impeding the normal shipping across the Red Sea and the Suez Canal. So I believe, and the Iranian regime will not have too many supporters if it collapses. So it seems that Israel might move into this direction. It's not 100% going to happen, but there is some direction into to probably give the Iranian regime a very strong attack that can affect them significantly in the electrical power, oil, possible nuclear systems underground. So if Israel is going to respond, it's likely to be a strong one.
So we're hoping that the United States gets them to refrain from a full-scale attack or to really cause even more instability in the Middle East.
I don't think the U.S. will do much pressure in this situation because Iran has started the attack now on Israel. Israel had problems with Hezbollah or problems with Gaza, but this does not, internationally speaking, politically speaking, justify for the Iranian regime to go and attack another sovereign nation. So in this situation, I believe the U.S. will not try to stop Israel and will probably give it a green light to respond as they see suitable for their situation.
Yes, I think Jake Sullivan earlier on put it as severe consequences for Iran's attack. Looking at Israel's missile defense system, we've been seeing the pictures and on our screens all night. How do you assess the effectiveness of the Iron Dome?
It seems at this time there is a problem with the Iron Dome effectiveness. If 180 missiles has reached Israel, this is a problem. It's not clear till this moment the degree of damage. Unfortunately, it's not clearly known. So when we know this, we'll be able to assess the capability of the protection system against these missiles. But in the meantime, we know that 180 missiles have been sent. One reached Tel Aviv and affected it to some extent. But if the other 179 missiles were interrupted, then this means the system is very effective. If all of them has reached Israel, that's another story. So I think we need more information, which will evolve soon, to be able to judge this particular point.
And on the wider situation for Israel, does this rocket fire from Iran cause a problem for the military preparedness or the security strategy at large?
Of course, it's very problematic for them because this time the missiles, for example, do not have any dirty bomb or radioactive material. Or maybe in the future, if the concept of being able to reach the land of Israel with these missiles, how could they know that one mistake can happen in the future with a nuke coming to their area and destroying the whole country? So it's very problematic and very worrying for them. And as I explained, as I mentioned to you, it is seen by many Israelis as an existential threat. No, this is not a normal threat when a country like Iran that clearly states that they want to erase Israel from the map, reach their land with such missiles. I think it will be taken very seriously by the Israeli Defense Force and by the Israeli intelligence. And I do expect that the reaction will not be small. It will be big.
And does Iran's military ability to launch missiles from its own territory, as we've seen today, does this change the landscape in the region overall, do you think?
Of course. Iran, the more power the Iranian regime have, with the capability that they show that they can reach Israel either from Iran or from the Houthis in Yemen. Also, remember, just a few days ago, an attack by Houthis reached the land of Israel. This means that they can also reach other areas where all the countries, neighboring countries, can be under the Iranian threat. And what is really more threatening in the whole story is the one person who took the decision or gave the order to launch the missiles was not the head of the military, it was Ayatollah Khamenei, the religious leader, which tells us that the decisions may not be taken even based on rationale or rational thinking and analysis. It could be emotional, it could be religiously motivated, or ideologically, let me put it in a better way, ideologically motivated. So I do believe that if this comes to the equation, it will make things very tense and will make many people worried what can happen next. If the Iranian Ayatollah Khamenei or the top religious leader next day decided to attack another country, no one can say no to him in the system. He's the highest religious authority. And this, again, another problem with the theocracies. That depend on people like Ayatollah Khamenei in taking decisions in such situations. So it's very worrying, not only for Israel, but for the whole area and for the international community as well.
And if I could ask you to perhaps look into your crystal ball for a second, what do you foresee in the next 24, 48 hours?
Major attack on Iran by Israel.
Would you like to tell us how you think that might pan out, and in what sense? Or how long are we looking? Are we looking tomorrow? Are we looking at night, the night after?
Give it 72 hours to be to be more rational and reasonable. Not 24 hours, maybe within 72 hours, we will see a response. And if this response was not strong, it will be very surprising to me and to many others. But I do believe the Israelis in a position where they probably have to respond in a strong way this time.
And you don't think there's any way back from that happening?
Excuse me, sir?
You don't think there's any way back from that situation?
No, I don't think so, because they already reached with these missiles, and we don't know yet how many have reached. And as you mentioned, if the defense system against the missiles was not very effective, then for them, the attack will be the best way of defense. There is well-known chess statement that to attack is the best way of defense. So if the defense system allowed some missiles to reach the land of Israel, then it's likely that the Israeli government will take the decision to move forward with attacking the Iranian regime and neutralizing their capabilities of attacking them again.
Well, thank you very much for your views there. Absolutely fascinating. Thank you very much, Tawfiq Hamid, for joining us on the program. Now, according to the Israeli Army radio, flight operations at Ben Gurion International Airport near Tel Aviv have been suspended following Iran's missile launches targeting Israel. A spokesperson for the airport confirmed there are currently no departures or arrivals. The Israeli Airports Authority announced that no flights would be allowed to take off or land at any Israeli airports. They added that Israel plans to reopen its airspace and resume flight operations in the coming hours. In Lebanon, Transport Minister Ali Hamiyeh announced a temporary closure of the airspace for 2 hours due to regional developments. He stated on X, given the regional developments, the airspace will be closed for 2 hours, and a reassessment will follow to determine when flights can resume. Jordan also temporarily suspended air traffic control launches, according to the Jordanian news agency. The Iraqi Ministry of Transport announced that authorities have closed the airspace after initiating the evacuation of Iraqi skies from incoming, outgoing and transit flights to ensure the safety of air navigation and aircraft transiting through Iraq. That's according to the official news agency. And thank you very much for joining us on Q News today, joining us on this very difficult day and a big news day as well. We've appreciated your company and we hope you can join us again. Good night.